We'll get started here in just a little bit as soon as we get on Zoom. Introduce you. By introducing you, everybody get up and say something about themselves.
No thanks.
You want him to sing for you?
Yeah.
Him.
No. We'll have to let Alan do that. It's in his genetics, I understand.
Don't do that mine. You gonna give me 3 minutes?
Yeah, I'll give you 3 minutes. Hope you got a short song.
I said 1.5 minutes.
There. Yeah. We'll get started here in just a little bit as soon as we get. Oh, look, it's recorded. Introduce you. By introducing you, everybody get up and say something about themselves.
No thanks.
Sing for you.
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah. We'll have to let Alan do that. It's in his genetics. That's pretty good. Right. You ever watch the movie? Short song.
I said 1.5 minutes.
We'll get started here in just a little bit as soon as we get. Oh, it's recorded.
What a tape delay, huh?
Yeah.
About 10 minutes behind.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to let Alan do that. It's in his genetics.
Yeah, that's well.
There's a couple chairs.
Okay, yeah. Hot.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Chairman.
It's gonna be reference to. Yeah, it's 1 minute, I think, on this. That's fine. Well, she don't finish it. I'd rather just. Do the voice. It's, well, because I'm not leaning one way or the other, like. There's a little there, I think.
Have your.
Commissioner Lee, before we get started, will you ask Michael to unmute and speak, and let's just make sure that we can hear his audio, and then he can mute himself so that we can make sure, because we're live, so it should be working. Chase.
Michael, are you there? Can you speak? Michael, we can't hear you. If you can hear us, Amber's going to try to get you hooked in. We can see you, but. Michael, can you hear us now? Yeah, we still can't hear you. We can see you though. Amber's trying to talk to Chase right now, Michael. You know, all this new technology, figure that's gonna be nice to have.
It is.
It's a learning process. None of us do. Try again, Michael. No. Everybody will just bear with us, though. We're trying to get our legal team on the Zoom.
Selected speakers, real text, so.
Not too late, yeah. It's been a long day.
It is.
Are you playing a piano, Michael? That's what we hear. Yeah, it's cold.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, Michael.
Okay, I found a switch on my computer that allowed me to use the computer's mic instead of the Zoom microphone. So maybe it's going to work.
All right. Everything sounds good on this end.
Good, good, good.
Miss Hamilton, you ready? We're going to Zoom. You think so? I'll call this meeting to order. You all stand. Okay. Miss Hamilton, will you lead us in the word, please?
Yes, you'll join me for a moment. Father God, we come to you now and we just thank you and praise you for how awesome you are. And Lord, we just really celebrated the veterans this past Friday, and we just ask that you honor them, those that have and continue to serve to protect our great land and protect their families as well. Lord, thank you for their sacrifice. We thank you for everyone in this room. We ask that you are with them and give them safe travels back home or to their places of work. We ask that you're with this governing board and that you give them your wisdom and your insight in all that they do. We are thankful for each and every person that works for this county. We ask that you bless them, that you protect them and their families as well. And Lord, just thank you for this great nation that we live in. Thank you ultimately for your son, Jesus. And it's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America.
and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of American Christians among the other. Well, good morning, everybody. We got a little late start here, but I think we got everything going. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move. Second.
We moved and second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. On item 2, approval of the minutes from October the 11th, regular meeting 2022.
Second.
Been moved second to accept the minutes of October 11th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. On to approval of accounts payable and payroll for September the 1st through 31st. Payroll and accounts payable September the 1st through the September the 30th for accounts payable. I'll make a motion to accept the.
Second.
All those in favor of the accounts payable and payroll, say aye. Aye. Passes. On to informational items. Today, Miss Green with the Roosevelt General Hospital update.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Good morning, commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here with you all. So I'm here today to talk about what's called the Safety Net Care Pool. This is a process where the state of New Mexico is able to supplement hospitals, and particularly it started out as a program to shore up those most vulnerable rural hospitals within our state. So this program has evolved over the years. In 2010, the Affordable Care Act came into being. And in 2013 is really when the safety net care pool here in New Mexico got started. Like I said, it really was created to protect the most vulnerable hospitals within the state of New Mexico. Now that's evolved over the years as the federal, and let me back up and say that now this program is what supports the Medicaid program. So there have been a lot of new federal rules that have been put into place since 2013. So the program went through a major overhaul in 2019. And in 2020, they really changed the model in order to comply with CMS, that's the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is our oversight body at the federal level. So that program had to change in order to be approved by CMS. So part of the program is that 1/12 GRT from each county goes to the state, and then there's a matching process. So the original agreement, based on my understanding when the program was set up, was that each county would contribute. It actually used to be 1/8, and then that changed over time, and it's now 1/12 GRT, and then the state will match that times 3 and send that back to the hospital within that county. So where we are right now, that program has evolved, and it's got to be tied to Medicaid utilization because it is part of the Medicaid program. That hurts us a little bit in Roosevelt County because our Medicaid utilization is lower than what you would expect for the poverty level of our county. So we only have about 18.5% Medicaid utilization. So we've seen our payments go down a little bit over the years. For example, this year we'll get about $2.2 million through this program. The county put in about $440,000. So you can see we're still getting sufficient matching that the state agreed to when this program was set up. It has gone down for us though. When I came here around 2018, we were getting about 2.8 million a year through this program. It then went down to 2.4 million. This year, we're right at 2.2 million. But despite the fact that it's gone down because it has to be tied to Medicaid utilization, we're still so very thankful and so very grateful for this supplemental funding through our state. So that's the program now. It's got 2 components. It's called Hospital Acquired Payments, and that's HAP. That's the acronym. And then the TAP component is a smaller component, and that's called Targeted Access Payments. So how we get the bulk of this money is through the HAP, the Hospital Access Payments. And those come through our Medicaid reimbursements. So when we bill Medicaid, we get an enhanced rate that the state has authorized. So we get more than we normally would, and that's how the money comes to us. So it's tied to individual patient claims that are Medicaid recipients. So those are the 2 primary methodologies that we have now to get funding through this program through the state, the HAP and the TAP programs. So at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I know that was a lot in a very high level overview, but happy to try to clarify any questions you may have. And then I told Amber, I want to shamelessly tell you about another project we've got going on at the hospital here in just a second, once we get past any questions.
Does anybody have anything?
I have no.
Do you think some of the funding on your 1/12 is just based on how taxes are? I mean, the things were somewhat lost.
Shane, honestly, it's Medicaid. It's in Medicaid. Yeah. They're estimating for 2023 that over 1 million people in the state of New Mexico will be on Medicaid. So that's almost half of our state's population. And so you compare that with what we've got in Roosevelt County, where we've got less than 19% of folks signed up for Medicaid. And there's some reasons for that. I mean, we've got a very proud community, and some folks opt for self-pay over than the Medicaid system. But those are discussions that we're having because it's hurting the hospital about how we can get that up.
Thank you.
that Medicaid utilization. And like I said, this program got tied to Medicaid utilization back in 2020. So before that, it really didn't matter. And now it matters a great deal to us. So I'd like to tell you about the project we've got going right now. And it's, we're at the very beginning stages. We're going to expand our surgical capability at Roosevelt General Hospital. So we've made an award to an architect so far, and this will be somewhere between an $8 to $10 million project is our estimate right now. Right now, we have two very small operating rooms. They're about 450 square feet. The standard in healthcare today is about 700 square feet for an operating room because the equipment is bigger. And you all may know this, we hired an orthopedic surgeon this summer. So we were ramping up, and a lot of his equipment that he'll need for things like hip replacements, shoulder replacements are very large items. So we're having to shuffle in the interim. We've actually created some additional pre-op space because that was one of our limiting factors before. So we're in the process of creating 5 extra pre-op bays right now. So that will give us 5 pre-op and 5 post-op. Right now, we just have 5 total. But our long-term fix is to create 1 to 2 additional operating suites and expand our capability. I may have shared this before. We actually have a surgeon or 2 that are waiting to come to RGH until we have adequate space for them. So that's a great problem to have, but one that we're solving right now. So we anticipate the design will be complete within 9 months, and then it will take probably about 9 months to construct. So we're looking at around a 2-year window right now, but that will greatly increase our surgical capability. And I think that's going to stop some of our referrals into Texas, to Lubbock and to Amarillo for some of the subspecialty care, and keep more local, which is really what we want to do. So we're very excited about that project. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I want to go back to your initial presentation. I did have a question. I apologize for not getting your attention. So 2.8 million to 2.4 million to 2.2 million. Okay, what's the projection? Because we're still getting good bang for our buck, but are you guys seeing that it's going to continue to decline, or are we looking at?
No, I think we've leveled off right now. We've got some work to do, really. We've got financial counselors at the hospital that can help sign patients up for Medicaid who otherwise might be self-pay. So we've got some internal work to do at the hospital, but I do think it's leveled off now under this new model. I don't see that really decreasing unless our volume or our population here drastically decreases.
Okay, do you guys have outreach coordinators, like a lot of hospitals and clinics?
We do not. No, we don't have outreach
Guys may want to
coordinators.
consider that,
Yeah. And honestly, our financial counselors are key to us getting patients signed up for insurance that will ultimately pay the hospital for their care. And we've had struggles recruiting staff lately. I think we're down 4 financial counselors right now out of 5. So that's significant. If we created an outreach position today, I don't know that we could fill it anytime in the real near future, but I do think that's where we need to go. So I appreciate that.
Anybody else have anything?
You mentioned we've hired an orthopedic surgeon.
We did.
Are we currently doing shoulder replacements?
We're not yet, but I anticipate in January that we should be up to speed. So we had a lot of equipment to order. Our existing OR table he could not use. A lot of that was on back order. So we've really been waiting for the equipment and the instruments to come in. And then the flip side of that is when you hire a physician in healthcare, not only do you have to credential and privilege them to ensure that they're safe and competent to work in your organization, we also have to get them credentialed with every payer. So we've got over 55 contracts with insurance payers, and every one of them has to get him approved before we can bill and recoup for his services. So we've got Medicare and Medicaid approved for him, and all the other insurances are trickling in. So our estimate is January when he's up to speed, as long as all the equipment's in. I know that was a long answer.
Good information.
Okay.
Especially for me, because I'm.
Right. we're so excited. It's going to be such a benefit for our community. And he's a Stanford trained orthopedic surgeon. And so we're just really, really thrilled to have him.
Thanks.
Anyone else got something from Ms. Green? Do you have something else you'd like to add, Ms. Green? or-
No, just I appreciate you all so very much and your ongoing support. A couple of years ago, I came in here and asked you to extend our gross receipts tax, the portion that comes back to the hospital directly. You all approved that, and that's how we're able to move the surgical expansion project forward. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Okay, we're going to skip to past Patrick Percher. He's out of judging today, and go to West Wings with the Roosevelt County Fair. Recap.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Wes Weems. Was elected the new Fair Board President for the upcoming fair season. First and foremost, though, from the Fair Board, I want to offer humblest thanks to this commission for what you've done to that facilities out there. They are vastly improved and continue to get better. And I've been a part of this fair for a long, long time, from kid to today, and thank you very much. It looks good. As far as a recap, guys, all I can tell you is we had a great fair. Had a lot of participation, a lot of young people out there doing what they love to do. We hope that continues. We had a good fair as far as numbers. No major incidents, so not a whole lot to report, guys. It's a pleasure to be on that fair board and to work with you guys for young people in this county. So that's all I had.
Does anybody have something they'd like to?
I'd like to say something, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I would also like to thank you guys. And to me, it was an honor to receive every thank you card from those kids. I've been receiving them for the past 2 weeks. And you know what, guys, those kids are our future. And I'm just so proud of them, and for them to take the time out to thank us for what we've done. I was just humbled. And on behalf of the board, I think I can say that thank you guys and kiddos for making this fair continue to thrive. So with that.
For that, Wes, I'd also like to give a shout to the fair board there. That's all volunteer work. They take days off to get this fair set up. They give up their precious time for this community with no pay, no gratitude, just for the kids. And I want to thank the fair board for that, present and past ones. I know Mr. Best, I think, stepped down off the fair board, and that's gonna be a hard shoe to fill. He's been there a long, long time.
We drawed him out of retirement once before.
Yeah. Thank y'all. All right. On to public request. At this time, anybody in the audience would like to speak on something that's on the agenda? Now's the time to do it. And you will be limited to 3 minutes, and Miss Hamilton will time it. Is there anybody who has anything they'd like to speak on the agenda right now? Miss Savage.
Hi, I'm Scotty Savage, Portales, New Mexico. I appreciate you guys. I know that y'all have a lot on your plate, but in a few days, you're going to be asked to certify this election. And we've talked a lot about election integrity. And as you know, it's a 4th-degree felony if you knowingly certify an election that violated our election code. It's not only federal, but it's also a state statute that these Dominion machines must be certified by the Secretary of State, and she has to use a certified certifier. And this has not been done since 2017. So I would ask you, how can you certify this upcoming election when those machines have not been certified properly? We need to be looking at having a hand count, and not 45 days after, but immediately that should begin. I know you may not think that we have any fraud in this county, and that makes no difference. The difference is, can your constituents count on you to do everything to guarantee there's no fraud? Number one. Number two, you know it's a statute that she has not followed. Are we or are we not a nation of laws? And where does holding people their feet to the fire begin? I would hope that at least you guys can set an example and let it begin with you. Thank you.
Mr. Carter?
Alan Carter, lifelong resident here in Roosevelt County. Thank you, commissioners. Chairman Lee, I do have some DNA, some good, some bad. One of the things though that I think is good is I was taught that two wrongs don't make a right. And when it comes to voter integrity, as Scotty said, and I didn't realize Scotty was going to talk about this, but let me back up. Our commissioners, I believe, are put in a corner. I believe that they're put in an unfair corner because when you're supposed to certify an election, that why doesn't the legislature certify that election instead of the county commissioners? In other words, they're asking you to do something that's illegal. It would be different if those machines had been certified. But as Scotty said, since 2017, we've gone numerous elections. Whether there was any fraud here or not is really irrelevant. So what's happening is by certifying them, we're asking the citizens of Roosevelt County to vote on a machine that's not legal. And it would be interesting to see what the lawyers have to say on this issue, because there again, two rights don't make a wrong, and we need to figure out how to go about these elections without committing another wrongdoing on the county. And so my opinion would be that I would hope that you would not certify these elections, even if it has to go. I know there's going to be a lot of backlash, but it's got to be right. It's got to be where let the legislature put that burden on themselves and not our county officials that we've elected to do the right thing, but are put in a box. Whether you do it or not, it's still going to be, you're still going to get backlash. I'm going to switch subjects just for a little bit. On the road department, there's a lot of times that people come in here, I'm sure, and they have issues with this county road or that county road. Like I said, I've been a lifelong resident here in Roosevelt County, and I can remember the old dirt roads where you couldn't even get the bus to the house. And I think that our road department has done a fabulous job. There's been a lot of roads that have been cleachied, that have been blacktop, that have been, just that's my
Alan?
phone.
I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes. are up, so
But
let's
anyway,
begin for
I would
everybody.
give a shout out to the road department. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience like to speak on something on the agenda today?
Good morning, commissioners. My name's Kenny Walker, resident of Roosevelt County. I got up this morning and I looked on the internet, and it's real easy to find statute on the election laws that machines are required for New Mexico to vote. There's also a statement that they need to be certified, but there's no place you can Google and say, have the voting machines in New Mexico been certified for 2022? There's no results found. We can quote statute and verse for for the requirement. If you don't fulfill that requirement, you're in violation. But there's a requirement to certify them. If that's not fulfilled, it's an inconvenience. How can it be that if we're a nation of laws, if we're a country of laws, that we're bound under one, but not the other? If we have to have machines, fine. But in order for the citizens of this nation to be confident that our elections are on the up and up, we should hand count periodically just to make sure that there isn't a problem. You know, I heard the chairman a while ago talk about IT. I doubt that there's anyone in this room that knows how those machines work internally. So we depend on someone else to be truthful. Well, Arizona, no problem. And I know somebody that may not care that it happened in Arizona, but it means it could happen here. No problem in early voting. But election day, 30% of the machines in Maricopa County malfunction. Oh, that's no problem. Put your ballots over here in this box and they'll be counted later. Guess what? They mixed the ballots with ballots that had already been counted. So there's human error there too. So you got a machine, you use the machine, but verify. And I hope the county commissioners will understand that we deserve honest and fair elections. If they are, that's great. But we need to know as citizens in this county that that's being done. So I would urge that we count the ballots, make sure that they're accurate with the machines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question for one of the people that's been speaking, or all of them, whatever. I asked last meeting we had this discussion, and I asked about what y'all had found the last time y'all did a hand count here. And I was told that I would get the results immediately, and that's been over a month ago. And I still again ask, what did y'all find wrong? What was the difference found with our results here and what was at the state level?
I'm Shawnee Standifer, and Mr. Grider, I do believe that whenever Erin came with all her data, it showed what happened in Roosevelt County. Primarily with everything seems to be in line. Everything was within where it should have been falling, except for our mail-ins. And when it hit our mail-ins, even here in Roosevelt County, they scattered. And so I don't know. And you have to realize that what we did here was not a hand count. What we did with that audit was not a hand count. And so it was different. She did scan all the ballots, and from that, they gathered the data, tracking what happened from different points, looking at your mail-in, looking at your day of, looking at your early voting. And so it is the mail-in that is scattered here in Roosevelt County. I think part of it, you've seen so much evidence, and I think I'm just gonna share with you where I'm discouraged. At one meeting, we had a commissioner say, I don't care what happened in other states. At another meeting, and Mr. Grider, I believe it was you said, I don't care what happened in other counties here in New Mexico. That concerns me. That highly concerns me. We need to care as a commissioner. We all as Americans need to care. All of us as New Mexicans need to care. But as someone sitting in a chair to protect us, the citizens, it is very concerning that you have two commissioners stating in public they don't care. That bothers me. And so, I don't know what else to do. We brought in so much evidence for you to see. We did it for nationwide. We brought in evidence statewide.
So I don't know what else to do. I understand what you're saying for Roosevelt County. Yes, for Roosevelt County, we look pretty good and we expected it to look good. We didn't expect necessarily for there to be any fraud showing here, but there is manipulation being done and it is not within our county. It is not our county clerk. That's not where the problem is. The machines have not been certified. It's evident that they've not been certified. We've shown proof they haven't been certified. So why? And they are to be certified. So going back to what Scotty said, how can we hold y'all's feet to the fire to certify an election that on machines that haven't been certified? And I don't know how they can do that. So I don't know if that answered your question, because I will tell you, Paul, I don't know that I really, from what we did, I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't feel like we gathered the information I was hoping we would gather. So I'm just going to be honest with you on that.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. State your name. You have 3 minutes.
I don't think I'll take 3 minutes, but my name's Diane Crandall. I'm just curious where all that evidence is. Do we, as citizens of Roosevelt County, get to see the evidence that Ms. Shondi was just talking about? Because where is it?
No talking in public. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Where
is that evidence is what my question is. Have all of you seen it? Mr. Lopez is shaking his head no. I was at the recount or the audit or whatever it's called, and was basically told that there would be information given to our county clerk, who, by the way, is excellent at what she does. Does a really good job. She's very fair. I was a poll challenger at the last election. I watched things. I didn't see anything that looked untoward. The machines worked properly, and they took one machine out because they didn't need them all. I just don't understand what it is that is being shown to be uncertified machines and evidence of fraud and so forth. So I would hope that would be brought to the public's attention, since Ms. Standifer seems to know what that is. I'm just asking that she would do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium and state your name.
Thank you, commissioners. My name is Kay Elack, and I do think I could direct Ms. Crandall to the Torrance County Commission meeting, where there was evidence presented by their county manager. I believe her name was Janice Barella. And what they found in Torrance County, and this was during the primary election, which would have been in June, they found that when they compared the number of ballots to the number of actual paper ballots to what the machine said there would be, there was a discrepancy and some anomalies, only in the Republican part of the primary. The Democrat votes and the paper ballots matched exactly with the count the machine had. But on the Republican side, there was as much as a 25% discrepancy on several different races, several different positions. So for the most part, there were fewer ballots than what the machine said there were. So the county, Torrance County, has not figured out whether the ballots, the difference in the ballots and what the machine said, if it was because some of the ballots were lost, or if the machine just malfunctioned. So they're still looking into that. But I would direct Ms. Crandall to there is a video that shows all the information, how the city manager set up the count. She used both Republican and Democrats and Libertarian counters. So I would direct her to that. If it can happen in Torrance County, it can happen here.
think you may see like. Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes. Okay, go to the podium.
I'm Dallas Danforth, resident of Portales since 1957, back and forth. But I'm speaking for those that are not here and for those that I know that are just as concerned as I am and have been concerned about elections for a long time. And we can assume that everything's fine, but that's the way you lose a nation, which I feel like I'm very worried about that, our elections. And if we start county by county, then maybe we can get something done, because there's a lot of evidence and I feel like that it just needs to be looked into. And if we don't, then we're going to be held accountable. And I think that's important. And you don't know me. I love this community. I taught here for a good many years, taught lots of kids like Wes, wherever he is. And these kids need something better. And we can't lose this country just because we don't want to mess with the time that it takes to look into things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lil Loy. I think that Commissioner Savage did an excellent job of presentation. I'm not sure if Dennis Lopez was here at that time or not, but they covered it extensively. I don't know if you were here or not. At one of the commissioner meetings. And the bottom line was there were problems all over. I worked as a challenger as well this year. The machines had problems. That doesn't go back to Mandy at all. It's the machines. They had trouble with it feeding it in. Numerous times they had to have people go over and help to get it to go through. One thing that bothered me a lot was a gentleman that said his didn't get counted. He didn't hear it ding. And so they went over and they pulled a machine out of the bottom, and I happened to glance inside and it was just like a square box and the papers were all over the place. How could anybody tell whether or not that was that last one that was counted? When I took notes on everything, I took notes and I put the ballot number on there because I didn't have a clock. The sheets that they sent to the Secretary of State, or to whoever that they required the tapes, should show what the ballots were that had problems, those that were recorded by different people. Because some put the time and some put the ballot. But there was definitely a problem with the machines on accepting the papers and them not wanting to go in. That concerns me as a citizen because I really do want my vote to count. And I would imagine everybody here does too, no matter what party you're from. We have a right for our voice to be heard.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Angie Smith. The Declaration of Independence states that the #1 role for a government is to protect the rights of its citizens, its God-given rights. That's its #1 goal. They also set up the brilliant checks and balances and the balance of powers. And in elections, you have the Secretary of State, our county clerk, and our county commissioners. The way that it's set up is that they are a check and balance of one another. Why? So that no one can come in with a tyrannical mindset and control all of the elections for everyone. So the last line of defense for voters is our county commission, because you have the power to say, no, we are, or yes, we are going to certify this election. We strongly believe that it's accurate, or no, we're not at this time. We want to take the time to make sure it's done right. You are the citizens' last line of defense for our vote and our voice. And that's why so many people are here imploring you to act on our behalf, because we can't do it ourselves. That's why we elected you, to stand up and defend and protect those rights that we have, that precious right to choose our citizens that God gave us. So that's why we're asking you to consider that. You're the last line of protection for the citizens, not for the state government or anyone else. With in mind the, we don't care if it's done and what goes on in other counties or whatnot. If that's an approach that you're going to take, that's fine, but you have to be equal with it. So for instance, when Commissioner Dixon introduced when Lee County was going to look into doing this great, amazing educational thing for along the vocational lines like culinary arts, and correct me if I'm wrong about that. I don't think you can, but there was this great program in Hobbs. We have just been listening about the dispatch center that Lee County has. That's so amazing. And yeah, let's go. Oh, we went and looked at it. We went and toured it because it's so great and it's so awesome. So why don't we bring that here? We can't say that we like what happens in one county and want to bring it here, but when we don't like something or something makes us uncomfortable, all of a sudden we don't care what goes on in other counties. That's being hypocritical. So we're just asking you to keep that in mind today. And we pray for you and we uplift you. We understand this is a difficult position that you're in, but you're equipped to be there. Thank you.
Does anyone else that hasn't spoke like to speak on something on the agenda today? We'll make sure both of you get your 3 minutes.
I'm Lemon Dotson. Recently, I think it was night before last, I happened to see a thing put out by the Secretary of State's office that showed Roosevelt County 0 votes for the write-in candidate for land commissioner. And some of us know that there was more than 0 votes. So I don't know where the discrepancy comes up, but somewhere they weren't showed up on that site.
Can I respond?
Right now, when we get ready to do the election, well, I'm writing that down right now. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Lemon.
Believe it or not, I don't want to talk about the election.
All right.
I'm fine with that. I want to talk, my name is Todd Fuqua, resident of this city, born and raised. I lived here the last 4 years after being gone for 20. Ms. Elak remembers me, I hope. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize. Oh, I should start my timer here. I am asking specifically about ordinance 2022-02 land use moratorium. And I want to hear from any one of you exactly what this moratorium is about. Right now, I want to hear about it.
This isn't a time to discuss. Right now, it's just for you to give us information.
Okay. Well, I know what it's about. I know it has to do with the big A word, abortion. I know it does. And I'm concerned because I'm worried. I don't know where this ordinance came from, who brought it in. I know that Clovis City Commission, I know that's a different city and all, but they've been dealing with this situation too. And we saw the storm that came out as a result of that. I'm concerned that if you pass something like this, that is specifically anti-abortion, in a state where abortion is still considered legal, we saw how the elections went. I know I don't want to talk about the election. I apologize. But I'm concerned that this could result in a lawsuit against this county because you are not paying attention to the minority voice. Yeah, majority, sure. A lot of people, most people in this county, not for abortion. I understand that. But as elected officials, you have to listen to all the minority concerns on issues. Because if you just go with majority rule, rights will be trampled left and right. And you have to listen to everyone that you represent, even those that didn't vote for you, even those that may not agree with you. And yes, Mr. Lee, I believe I live in your district. But you have to take into account that into account because democracy is messy. It's inefficient. It doesn't work the way everyone wants by design. You have to take into account the minority position because no matter how well-intentioned an ordinance may be, you're going to have probably consequences that you weren't expecting. consequences that can be adverse to a minority of people, and you could end up hurting somebody really badly. You have to take those into account. So I'm concerned about this ordinance, and I hope you take the minority view into account when you vote on this. Frankly, I don't think it should be before the board at all. I don't know if it's been properly vetted. Maybe not, maybe it has, I don't know, but I'm concerned with this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we missed anyone in there? If there's no other discussion from anyone that hasn't spoke, we're going to move on to elected officials now. To the treasurer's office, Ms. Sanchez.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm here to update you on your general fund cash balances. We're going to start with September's. We're playing a little catch up. Your beginning general fund cash balances of September 22nd or September 2022. Your ending cash was $2,217,722.63. Do you have any questions over your general fund cash balances for September? We're going to move on then and we'll do. Oh, I did that in reverse. I apologize. I wanted to do August first. Okay, let me back up. For August 2022, sorry, your general fund beginning cash was $3,812,532. Sorry, $3,812,532.58. You had debits of $331,964.96, and you had credits of $849,538.31, and that left your ending cash at $3,293,211.92. Do you want me to do September over, or is that okay?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Does any of the commissioners need to repost all that?
My apologies. Does anyone have questions over any of the cash balances for August or September?
I think we're good.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanchez. Let's move on to detention. Ms. Ramsey.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Let me move that a little. For our facility count this morning, we're at 54. We have 9 females and 45 males. Out of county, we have 4 detainees. For the bookings of October, we have 68. For releases, we have 63. We have 0 transported for the month of October. For billing, we have Quay County 8,850. For juvenile billing for the year, we are up to 114,000 for the entire year. For the MAP program, we have 15 in group, 2 on medications, and we did our first medication for our first release for the community yesterday. For GED, we have 5 enrolled. Flu shots are being offered to detainees and staff. We are continuing to clean as we are getting ready for flu season and other public health concerns. Detainee workers have been taking care of the grounds, the fairgrounds, road department, and the detention center. We are also working on the floors here at the courthouse. We have special meal planned for the detainees for the holiday for Thanksgiving, and this will include our staff being fed as well while they are at work. We hold a Thanksgiving every year for our staff for the holiday to enjoy. Visitation has resumed to normal pre-COVID standards. We have 1 in the academy and we have 2 hired. Our accreditation has also been pushed to 2023, but we are ready for it. I stand for any questions.
Ms. Dixon, any questions?
No.
Thank you for that report,
you.
Ms. Ramsey. Let's move on to finance, Ms. Rivera.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners.
You have before you the first quarter report submitted to DFA. This is our financial activity from July 1st through September 30th. This report represents all of the funds we manage and their corresponding adjusted balances. Our general fund, as of September 30th, had an adjusted balance of just a little over 11 million, and our road fund at 2.8 million. With the first quarter complete at 25% expended through the year, our funds were slightly over the marker or at the marker. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Schroeder. I think we're good. Thank you for that report. Glad we're rather Mark. Let's go on to healthcare now with Ms. Flores.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to go into indigent board meeting.
Well, it's been moved and second. We go into indigent board meeting. All those in favor? Aye. We're now into indigent.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chairman. For this batch, I had 32 medical claims for $24,676.96. Total I recommend for approval are 23 claims for $12,523.06. The total disapproved are 9 claims for $12,153.90. We have 4 claims for Fedco emergency room doctors. 1 was disapproved for past timely filing. 3 were disapproved. The patient was brought in by Portales Police Department. For Roosevelt General Hospital, we have 8 approved. And we have for $11,743.64. Total disapproved, 5 claims for $9,724.90. 2 claims were past timely filing, and 3 claims were brought in by Portales Police Department. I have 11 claims for Concord Radiology for $285.11. Do y'all have any questions on these?
I have none. I move to come out of indigent meeting.
Been moved and second. We come out of indigent. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're not in.
Mr. Chairman, I will move to approve the presentation from Carol Acosta Flores as presented.
Second.
Been moved and second that we accept the indigent fund as presented by Ms. Flores. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Indigent fund approved.
Thank you.
Ms. Flores. On to our favorite road department. I always say favorite, that I get you. Because I get to just.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. What a great morning, huh?
He looks scared already.
Yeah. We started our LGRF 2023. We just fired it off. We're doing South Roosevelt Road Y. On our capital outlay, 300,000, we're about 90% done. We're rocking on that one, getting it done. Our TPF that we received in the first part of October, the 2.8 million, 7 million, excuse me. We have done 40 miles since we received the money, since we got the go ahead. And we have used up $1.7 million of that. So we're really going through it and getting things done over there. We'll continue our maintenance, tree trimming, cattle guards, vehicle equipment maintenance. We're doing training as we speak. And now, if y'all got any questions before we move on any of that.
All I have to say, Ricky, while we was talking about laying down the new
micro seal.
Yes,
sir.
On Road 8, what we did last year, you know,
Mhm.
I showed you, Miss Hamilton, back later that it looked like somebody had done a burnout or something, you know, there's starting. Well, that road from R1/2 to over into S, it's not a burnout. It's coming apart. So while them
Right.
guys are here,
I showed it to them when they were down just the other day. And when this spring, they're gonna touch that one up. There's a few other ones on Q across the street from 267. There's one there, and I believe on P that we done a couple of years ago. They're gonna clean up a couple of those also. So, and that's on them. So,
yeah,
nothing on us.
I thought, well, we had them here before we let them get away.
Yeah, we did see that, and me and Miss Hamilton looked at that also, and I visited with the owner of the construction, and they're going to fix everything for us. So, and I'm sure we're going to have a few blemishes on these new ones. So come spring, they'll come back and clean those ones up too. So
It sure looks nice. It sure has cleaned up our roads and smoothed them. I don't know how it smoothed them up that much, but it sure helped.
it did. The only one I'm really Road 6 between Kilgore and 88 is a little rough, but it's better. It's better than what it was before. AK was another one that didn't smooth up as much as I'd like, but I think eventually with another layer of it, it would, if we ever come across some more money like we did, that was amazing, by the way.
I've got a quick question, Mr. Chairman. Industrial Road, that's 6, right? What is the status on that one? I know it's city, but have we talked to them or negotiated with them on trying to fix that? That's actually, it's a hazard now.
We did.
Not only bad, it's a hazard.
I'll let Miss Hamilton talk to you on that one. Because I believe we reached out to the city. And we've offered the labor and half the materials, and we're waiting on a response, I believe. I don't want to say nothing out of order. Okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna stick with this project as well, because we're doing so many things to enhance the fairgrounds, parking lots, handicap, just a lot of beautification. And have you heard anything on Lime? We're gonna have a beautiful fairgrounds, but in a road that's not even passable pretty soon.
Seen counters out.
Between Boston and Highway 70. Can we stick with that, or can we attend one of the city meetings and address that issue again as well? I'll be more than willing to attend that meeting with you, Amber. Thank you. That's all I have.
So this last year during budget, y'all let me get a new tool for the road department. And as y'all can see here, man, I just can't see it.
Yeah, pull it around there, Ricky.
I'm not having any luck over here.
Ricky, if you'd like to come over here about
here.
Yeah, come over. Yeah,
Thank you.
Come over here.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
And you can use his mic then.
Grab my- So with this new tool that we got, it has all these points, cookie crumbs, data points, and it lets us know what our guys have done in a certain amount of time. It's so much data that we can only go 2 weeks back. So let's say, for instance, blade 1 is where we're at. And we can go over here from let's see here, the 17th through the 31st or the 3rd. What month is he in? What?
He's in October.
I'm in October here.
I can see it.
So road, this blade was, is actually the one that builds all of our roads, but we hit a a spell that was really wet. So we broke them off for 2 weeks. And you can see them here south of town. Through those 2 weeks that I just pulled up. Oh, I blew it up too fast. So he hit road 8, road 9, Q, 10 and a half, 11. I mean, it shows everything that he did in those 2 weeks. You can go to this blade 2. You can see him working right here. He's out down road 25, right off of AE and AF. We'll do the same dates here. At one point, we were having trouble in Kenna back in behind the mesa, and he was working on a couple of miles back here, and he was parked at Kenna. But anyways, when he got done there, he went back to where he was previously. And this is AB and 20. Let's see, this is 18 W U 16, and that was in those 2 weeks that I just pulled up. So you can see all the points where they're going back and forth and blading these roads.
Quick question, Ricky.
Yes, sir.
Yellow, green, and red markers, what are they?
So if you can see right here, the red is less than 5 miles an hour.
Okay.
And the yellow is more than 5, and then the green is more than 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rodent.
Yes, sir. More than likely. Another one would be, we'll go to blade 6. Right now, he's blading. He's south of 114. Looks like maybe, I don't know what road that would be, but you could bring it up. M, he's on M.
There's the long cemetery.
And then you can go. So we are in November, right? I'm really struggling looking at that.
Yeah, 15.
Okay, I'll hit 15.
Okay.
Did I?
Real slow right there by that intersection.
Mhm.
Yeah. They do go slow, 3-4 miles an hour, by the way.
Oh, I see it blinking. So Ricky, if we're in a situation where we have a grassland fire, we can track where our blades are to make sure they're safe.
So, yes, sir. So the safety aspect of it is also, like Mr. Lee said, is if we get a grass fire, it's late at night, we get lost out there. We don't know which way is north, south, east, or west out there. Well, I can pull it up on my phone. I can pull this app up and tell them, all right, I see you. I can tell you where you're at. Well, even we have blowouts or we get broke down out in these fires or they get stuck, I know exactly where they're at, and I can get with fire command. We can get some help out there. So it's a great safety aspect of this whole thing too. So would y'all like to see more, or is that good? But it's amazing what this little thing will do. So
it tracks the hours, the blades in motion.
motion, everything, what time they fire up, what time they quit, lunchtime.
Oh, yeah.
It also does, it'll hold the history for 2 years. So if we get a complaint that we haven't done a road in a year or two, I can go back in the history and find it and show that we have done it. Yes, sir. So, or we haven't done it, either or.
Yeah. Dang, I'm gonna take my excuses.
Yes, so I really like it. Thank you all, by the way. So it's amazing. You want your chair back? Do you want me to run this?
Hamilton?
Heat up a little bit.
Get it, Amber.
I stand for any questions.
Oh, I think everybody's gonna have a bunch for you. Mr. Greider, Savage, you have anything you need? to
Oh, I'm
discuss?
sorry, the mouse.
Mr. Lopez, do you have anything more
I'm
you need to
good.
discuss with you? Ms. Dixon? I have a question for you, but let's see.
So, Miss Arnett is not going to make it. She'd like to reschedule for after. She broke down, her car broke down between here and Roswell for District 2. So we'll reschedule that and get her back on the agenda.
Okay. Rick, I have a question. There's been, when I was out, I hate to say the word working because I don't work, but there's a lot of people that are looking for cut down old trees and stuff, price of fuel or heating. Is that something the county can, was someone let some local residents go trim some of our trees?
I'm sure there's going to have to be some kind of letter.
I think that's
But
legal.
I let them come visit with you about that?
I don't have a letter that states that they can do that without us getting in trouble. It'll have to be something drawn up. I'm assuming that'll be come from legal or something.
Yeah, that's a legal question. My problem would be the anti-donation clause. So maybe you want to elaborate on that, Mr. Attorney?
Chairman, Commissioners, it's always a challenge when we're doing issues like that and things like that for private citizens. I mean, unless it presents some sort of a health or safety, issue, where we need to be careful about how we do it, how we do it, and whether we do it in the first place.
Okay. Just trying to kill two birds. All righty. Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you.
Under the county manager, Miss Hamilton, your report.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commission. So just a few things that we want to run down. I attended the county manager meeting this last week. There were several great presentations and topics that we covered. One of the most exciting things that we're looking at is how counties can come together and do some statewide campaigns. So as you're all aware, we're all struggling with staffing our detention center and the perception of that incredible job that's out there and how hard it really is. And so we have a small group, a subcommittee of county managers that are working together on how to really work on marketing that and working on a consistent statewide campaign to really talk about how important detention personnel are to help us get people in the door. The idea is that we're not stealing from each other, but we're inspiring new folks to come into a really great career path and everything. So we're working on that. One of the other things that was brought up for a statewide campaign was Bernalillo County, and they have started an initiative. It's Keep New Mexico Alive. They started a campaign, and it's all about the unintended use of fentanyl and how dangerous it is and what we're seeing in our communities. So they've started putting a lot of tools together, and the county manager with Bernalillo County, Ms. Baca, is actually leading the charge on this one. And we're going to have additional conversations about this at our legislative conference in January of how we can really have a consistent statewide message, because we really need our families talking about this at home. It is so dangerous. And we're seeing kids that are getting caught up and they're even dying because they don't realize what they're taking and what they're ingesting and what they're getting exposed to. And so it's just alarming. We're seeing this with those that are booked into our detention centers. I mean, fentanyl is just something that's everywhere. It's on our streets. So we're really excited to see what we can do as a statewide campaign. Again, consistent messaging, inspiring those conversations everywhere, and really working on that collaboratively. So more to come on that one. They have hired a marketing company to actually put a lot of those things together, and they're willing to share that with us to, again, have that consistent messaging out there and everything, whether it's billboards or radio ads or anything along those lines. We're really looking at doing that. And then they actually had a fentanyl summit. They had over 500 people attend in person and over 1,000 attend online. And it was, again, just a day of conversations and awareness and talking, peer supports specialists as well, just a wide variety of experts on that. So I wanted to share that and let you know that more would be coming, and kind of look forward to sharing more about our opportunity to participate in that statewide campaign and what it could look like to help have those conversations here. Another thing that we talked about was our legislative priorities, and Commissioner Dixon's going to present on those a little bit later. They had New Mexico County's Insurance Authority had updates with the extremely litigious environment. We're very friendly to trial attorneys in the state of New Mexico, as we're all aware. And there are some substantial changes that have happened in the law, again, that we are very well aware of just recently, even with the Civil Rights Bill and such. We are struggling to find reinsurance for our law enforcement. And so we're still waiting on those. There will be increases. We've expected increases. But at this point, they still don't have information. And typically we have our reinsurance lined up by October, and here it is middle of November, and we do not yet have another insurance board meeting scheduled because we're still waiting on the reinsurance. So it's a very real issue that we're looking at here facing our county in terms of reinsurance and that additional coverage. Okay, so super exciting news, I know, but some of the good stuff that we talked about, like for New Mexico counties, they have received a request from NACO, and the National Association of Counties is looking at establishing a public lands resource center. We requested more information because we really want to make sure that the policies align with what we're looking at, that we, there's a lot of us counties that are concerned about the rulings that we're seeing with endangered species and those kind of things. So we really want to make sure that the policies are aligning with what the local policies are and what the land use looks like within our given counties. So more will come on that, and they are looking to request financial support from those counties that are also members of NACO. So once we have additional information, we will be providing that to the commission for y'all's consideration. The next thing is our December 6th meeting that we have scheduled. They have actually slated the Better Informed Public Officials Conference for December 6th through the 8th, which will conflict with that meeting. So I would like to see if we could move that meeting up by about 12 hours and have it on the afternoon of December 5th instead of having it on the morning of December 6th, since there is a conflict with that conference. And we don't have to decide. I just need y'all, if you can look at your calendars and then let me know if that's something that's possible, then we'll look at just making a quick adjustment for that meeting.
What's
So
the date again?
Monday, December 5th, having that meeting either in the morning or the afternoon instead of having it on the morning of December 6th, that Tuesday. And with that, typically we have an annual fleet workshop as we prepare for the budget. It would be brief with that one. So we're still planning those out. And then the December meeting, December 20th, we will have our detention center walkthrough. We'll invite our newly elected officials as well. It's a great opportunity for them to become familiar with the facility and see the great operations on the inside, if you haven't already.
There's only one new one.
I
I'm
know.
just saying.
So we're still waiting on New Mexico Tax and Rev. They are recalculating. Their little wheel has been spinning for quite some time. We're still waiting on revised figures in regards to their county equalization distribution. We pointed out the error to them. They reluctantly received and acknowledged the error, and they are still recalculating. They advised that they would have us the revised figures and let us know by early November. We have yet to see them. So we're working with New Mexico counties. All of us, 33 counties, are working closely with those. It is interesting to note that 44% of the TRD budget is funded by counties and municipalities. And so we really had some discussion about whether we're really getting our bang for our buck, as you said, with that large percentage, especially when it's a state department and you're seeing the local entities doing the majority of that funding when you look at the 44% versus what they're really collecting for us. So we're watching that. We did receive our New Mexico oil and gas reports. I did receive and review those These were released in November, and this dates back to August. Relatively unchanged in terms of volume and production. We have seen the price of the barrel go down and drop and have some fluctuation there. But as far as Roosevelt County numbers in the oil and gas production, everything is staying relatively the same and steady on those. Did attend the National Association of Counties Ag and Rural Conference Committee call. We again talked about the LATCF funding, which we will talk about later. We have that on an agenda item. The legislative conference for NACO is scheduled February 11th through the 14th. That is not something that we currently have in the budget at this time, but if the commission or if a commissioner is wishing to attend, that is something that we just need to look at. The registration is now open, and then that could be a budget consideration in the future for an adjustment if somebody wants to attend. And we are working to, the committees are working to establish the policy priorities to present. We're working closely with ENMU and intern placement. Right now, they've looked at placements within our misdemeanor compliance program and detention center and such. And so we're working on helping place those students and get some credits and really get some great hands-on experience for them as they're working through their educational tracks. And we do have our Fairgrounds Master Planning. Our public meeting for it is scheduled Thursday at 10 a.m. here in the commission room. And that's a chance for members of the public that wish to attend and learn more about the process and share any kind of insights and thoughts that they want to share about the county fairgrounds and what we're looking to do in terms of the updating the master plans. You had mentioned South Roosevelt Road 6. We did, following the commission meeting where y'all discussed that, we sent an email to the city and offered those services. We have received some initial word back that they think that that's something that they might be willing to consider. And we will be able to work off of a prior agreement, draft a new one based on what we did with South Roosevelt Road U. If you'll remember when we did that one, when the city manager, Mr. Standiford, was there. So we have something to mold off of. At this point, we aren't going to be able to do anything until the spring due to the weather constraints. But we're hopeful. We did propose too that we do a joint letter to those entities as you had suggested, Commissioner Lee. I don't know really what the path forward is yet on that one. I didn't get a definitive answer on it, but we're hopeful that we can at least reach out and let them know that the city's willing to, like, if we can get an agreement signed, then we can get permission to do some, it's going to be a complete overhaul of that 1 mile section of road. It's beyond the point of having any kind of repair. So all of that offer was extended, and we've received some initial confirmation that they would be willing to consider it. So we'll just have to draft an agreement and work forward, if that answers your question, Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all on my list, the end. So I would stand for any questions.
I think we'll go to the commissioners and they can ask their questions. They have any, Mr. Crowder, you have anything? Mr. Savage, you have anything? Ms. Dixon? Ms. Dixon, we'll go on to commissioners, start with Ms. Dixon.
Make it quick.
Let me see how slow I can talk. Okay, so I went to the, I was going to talk about some stuff on the NMC, but with that, I've got the resolution for the legislative priorities from NMC when I went on to that meeting. So I'll discuss that when that comes up on the agenda. Also, RCCDC went to that meeting, and we're working on some stuff within signage, trying to get some different things done around the city and different vacant places, trying to make it look a little better around here. And there's several things that they're working on at RCCDC. Also went to EPCOG, and one of the things that they talked about in the EPCOG meeting was the brownfield successes in New Mexico. And there is a brownfield grant, and it does, which Carol's not here, you can apply for this, and it gets rid of like the vacant gas stations and things that they've had. They'll come in and clean up
that fuel and stuff in those tanks and stuff that get underground. They do asbestos cleanup, lead paint. And anyway, so it's open to anybody, businesses, private entities, anyone can apply for this brownfield grant. And so I have some information on it and I have the ladies' contact information. I just thought it was something that was pretty good to have around and to get rid of some of these, get some of these old buildings cleaned up with their asbestos and lead paint. I know we have several of them in Elida and they're working on one with the old post office there now. And on South Roosevelt Road 6, I did get a lot of calls on that one as well with the city and stuff over there. I've had a lot of complaints on that road, even though it's not my district. I still get, you know, a lot of complaints, especially with the truck drivers that are going in and out of there. They're very unhappy. And I think with that, I will be quiet until we get to my legislative priorities.
Just yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I don't know if it was before your time, Amber, but we used to have refuse containers throughout the county for trash, for county residents to throw their trash in. Whatever happened with that? Is there any way we can implement that again into our county? We're just having I've gotten numerous calls, complaints about county folk coming into town and filling up dumpsters. And it happens in my alley at both of my places that I own every single week. So can we research what it would take, what it would cost, do maybe a cost analysis, and maybe the Board of Commissioners can consider implementing that program back. I think it would also avoid a lot of the illegal dumping that's going on. I know we've offered rewards for anyone who reports illegal dumping, but I would really like something to be looked into in reference to that.
Certainly. And Commissioner Lopez, I will, I made a note on the cost analysis in terms of that. It was definitely before my time, so I don't know anything about those containers. I know that we did look at that and we had some public meetings about our Clean and Beautiful grants. And there was some concerns actually expressed. I think Commissioner Dixon said they had tried to put a container at Elida and people inherently don't dump in the container. They dump next to the container or things blow around or we have wind or like we had a lot of subsequent littering that came from a result of that they, I think, struggled with that was shared. But one of the Clean and Beautiful grants that we do have awarded, we're working closely with the city on. We did a joint application with the city at the time, and it is about PSAs, raising awareness on illegal dumping, because it's going both ways. I mean, we've got county residents coming in and dumping, but then we have city residents going out in the county and dumping. And it's really hard for me to understand when you have a convenience center, it's $4, I think, every time we go for a pickup load of trash bags or whatever of stuff that doesn't fit in our regular dumpster at the house and everything. And so tires and furniture, what we tend to collect. Bags of trash, yes, when they happen to go in, it's convenient, but we get the old couches, the tires. We had, I think Rick picked up a full dump of tires just on the latest over there in the Indian Hills and Apache Hills area right before we started doing all of the road work. So we will continue to work on that, and we can look at a Clean and Beautiful grant application for that as well. So
that'd be nice. I'd like to just throw another example. I approached a gentleman with flatbed last Saturday in my alley, and he said that the convenience center, he's a contractor. He said, I've got to work. I need my flatbed. I've got to work. You know, I've got to feed my family. But the convenience center didn't open till 1. And this was mid-morning, and he needed his trailer. So I don't know. It was just, I think it'd be worth even talking to the city about either earlier hours on the weekends, because people work, the earlier the better, especially on a weekend when we've got time to do things outside of our professions. So actually I could address it with Councilman Lopez and Cordova. See if they can address it tonight at their meeting. And also one more thing, Mr. Chairman, I received several voicemails and text messages in reference to the moratorium that I I'm choosing not to share, Mr. Chairman. I want to get with these individuals and have them come in person if they want to present. I don't think it's fair to me, to them, or anyone. If they have their concerns, they can do it under the, like all of these people came, they had the courtesy to come in person and present their views on the public request line items. So that's what I will do. So our conversation earlier, I just want to opt out of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rod, with that, we're going to take 10 minutes. 10-minute recess. Coffee break.
I need some water.
Tina needed coffee break.
I need to help you up, Mr. Savage.
Thank you.
You know what? I need some of your mail. Never had any of it. Oh, Lord. Right. Right.
I think it's for a view. Thank you. I've had a couple of them.
And just talking to you. That's Medicaid. Medicare. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, there you go. They told them labor and delivery when I first came. So it was originally built to. Because they can never recruit in our community.
Oh, you've been back. Anyone know that that's you?
That's the first thing been built. They gave me that cup. That's the first thing I thought of. I reminisce back to college river parties at state. And a red Solo Cup. Oh, that's true too. Oh, I'm freezing. Like, I don't know if I'm catching something or I need to meet this. I need to meet you.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes, ma'am. No. Yeah. Yeah. My dad. Good friends. Many years. I met last years with my dad. Welcome. Thank you. To the job.
I think Michael sent me up.
Yeah. How funny.
Team on the screen.
Yeah, I see him over there kind of smirking, you know.
Yeah, you need to have a talk with him about that.
Well,
Or the road on the show on the road. Right? That's what it's.
I had a council meeting last night. So I drove halfway last night.
Oh, my
I
God.
was down in Rio Communities last night.
The next time you have to come up, just give us, you can stay at the house tonight.
I didn't realize that was on the agenda.
Tell your husband his contract is expired. He's still.
Review and discussion of ordinance 2022 land use board.
Maybe he did. No, I was just letting you know. I don't know if I don't know if I was,
No matter what we pass, the state can.
Didn't know if I was-
Legal, I mean, so it's just such a waste of time. I mean, we're all pro-life. I'm pro-life. I've been all my life. I had my first baby in high school. How can I not? Sorry,
That's what I was thinking.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Uncle Albert.
Too funny. That's good. Are we live? Are we live?
We're hot. We're not live, but we're hot.
No, but are we live right now?
No, but they can hear us. Michael, can you hear us? Nope. Yep.
Yes.
Yep, he can.
Hey, Mandy. Are
you
we
hear me?
live? We're not live, right?
I can't hear you. We're on, but we're not. Oh. So the world's in our.
Well, I wish we at least had a mute button. Off, we're off.
Like this.
Hmm,
Push your button.
Good job.
That's fine.
Want him to- Yeah, I want him to turn mine back.
Get to still on.
I was ready yesterday. Bring through all this stuff. Go away.
10:32.
We already waived that statement.
But just another day, another dollar. to me.
I'm here all day long.
We got it.
Get it from JR.
This next deal here is, I hope it,
What are they doing
I
for
hope it'll
the,
take about 5 minutes. I don't know how much. Should I talk about it or should the lawyers just talk?
I think you are a lawyer. Talk about it.
I had her turn that air conditioner, sorry,
I'm gonna bring it up.
here on the. It was getting a little chilly. Oh, it's just like my wife, cold, feet are cold, hands are cold.
Well, if I didn't, we took some. Cool.
Well,
I'm just, they just.
warm words.
Intentions are good.
I was ready for it.
Oh, y'all ready?
I'm
Waiting
ready.
on you, Mr.
yes,
Lee.
Mr. Chair.
We'll come out of recess now. On to old business. Review and discussion of the ordinance 2022-2 of the land use inventorium. Mr. Savage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I think there's a lot to be said about this ordinance. We've considered several meetings with good intentions. I think it's obvious that every member on this commission is pro-life. If there's any way that we could save life, then we want to do it. We're all against the murdering of babies. We're all there. But at the same time, we've taken the oath of office to obey the law. So it's come to my attention, and Mr. Garcia and I have had several conversations on this, and I would like to kind of summarize some of those conversations. And Mr. Garcia, I'll listen, and if I leave out something or something needs to be explained fuller, I would appreciate your input. But as far as this moratorium is concerned, we have some problems passing this moratorium because of state statute. In my understanding, the state statute would require that we have a comprehensive land use plan in place. We don't. It requires that we have a zoning code. We don't have it. An open-ended moratorium constitute a taking, which requires a whole long list of procedures. And the landowners have to be notified, public input, and taking, they have to receive compensation. There's a lot of reasons that this moratorium has some problems in my mind. Now, if we don't follow state statute, we don't follow the law, yes, we can pass this moratorium. But if we do without following the statutes, it can't be enforced. So any action taken that is in contrary to state statute is null and void. I don't think. So only thing that can happen to this, it's not enforceable. So what do we accomplish? The only thing we could accomplish by passing this moratorium is to make a statement that we are pro-life, and we've already have a resolution, passed a reform resolution declaring that. On the flip side of that, though, what can happen if you do pass it is open ourselves up to lawsuits. Now, all of you are familiar with Brian Egoff's House Bill 4. He makes about at least 20% of his business represent on civil rights lawsuits. Now, there are plenty of people, I think, that would be more than willing to file a lawsuit if they think they can make some money on it. And that's what this opens us up to. And they don't have to do anything other than what Mr. Garcia explained to me is someone can just
say, well, I wanted to establish an abortion clinic, establish that business, but after I saw that ordinance, I declined to do that. So what happened was, this ordinance prevented me for enjoying my right to entrepreneurship. I'm filing a civil suit. Well, House Bill 4 was a $2 million cap plus lawyer fees. So the good that can come out of this is us to make a statement, we're against abortion. We already did that, but the bad thing to come about this is open ourselves up to severe lawsuit. We have some insurance to pay part of it, but after that, we cannot pay that type of money. The county doesn't have it. You'll have to pass that expense on to the public in the property taxes. So I don't see very little that can be done. Very good, that can be good to come out of us passing this moratorium. And I want to say this before the motion came up, because, I think it would be improper procedure to debate against my own motion. So I'd rather say it before that. So I think that the best way to handle this would be not to take this motion up. Motions that are postponed, you have until the meeting, following the meeting in which it's postponed, to take it up or it dies. So I say very little can happen to this. I'm not prepared to move this motion. If any other commissioner wants to do that, that's their prerogative. But myself, I'm not prepared to offer this motion at this time. What I have done is I have given Mr. Garcia, or sent Mr. Garcia, a copy of the ordinance that Hobbs passed, and I understand it's an ordinance that Lee County is going to consider. I would like to, at the next meeting, have that ordinance presented to this commission to see if they want to pursue this. It will be, these things take time, but basically this ordinance is just an ordinance in my mind that says we are passing an ordinance that says if you have an abortion clinic, you have to abide by federal law, which regulates the transport of drugs used in the abortion industry and transport of paraphernalia and equipment used. So Mr. Garcia has a copy of that, and I would like for him to probably bring that for maybe the first reading at the next meeting. But my suggestion is, as far as this moratorium goes, I'm not prepared to make that motion. I suggest that we not take it up, and instead, in following meetings, start pursuing the ordinance that Clovis tabled, Hobbs passed, and Lee County is in the process of considering. That, so that's all I have.
Is there any more discussion on this with any other commissioner? I see no more discussion, so I say we'll move on to the next item of business.
Thank you, sir.
On to new business. All right, we need to recess to the Board of Finance. I need a motion.
Board of Finance.
I'll second.
The moon saying we go into Board of Finance, a roll call vote. Mr. Crowder.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
we're now on Board of Finance. Ms. Sanchez.
Hi, Chairman and Commissioners. I wanted to update you on your investments for general fund from July, August, and September. We have earned a total of $20,225.61 in interest in your general fund. So the average is about $6,741. Does anyone have any questions over the investments or? Okay.
It's better than most people. Is that all?
It is. Yes. Thank you.
When we come out of Board of Finance.
Second.
Then maybe we come out of Board of Finance. Mr. Lopez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Dixon? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
5 yes votes. We're now out of Board of Finance. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Item A, request approval to partially vacate an undeveloped road, Norman James subdivision. Johnny Montiel.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Mr. Long has applied to partially vacate an undeveloped road easement that was established back in October of 1990 in the Norma Jane subdivision. It's located in section 31, Township 1 South, range 35 East, or 300 feet from the intersection of East 12th and South Kilgore North. The proposed vacation or vacated easement contains 0.6651 acres in size. The proposed partially vacated easement will, if approved, will in turn to proceed with the replat of lots 1 and lots 2 into a track A. And then also we'll have to adjust the lot lines. That'll be in the second part of this process that we'll look at today. Under our county subdivision ordinance, Article 13, Special Procedures, Section 13.3, and vacation of a plat. Also, there was one adverse opinion from a utility company from Lumen. What they wanted was, they didn't have an adverse opinion. They just wanted a location of utilities out there. And as soon as we did a one spot, they went out there and looked at it. They saw their utility lines weren't going to have any kind of effect on it. They were good to go. So all utilities are good. They all cited no adverse opinion. The landowners only had 2 phone calls, and basically they were just wanting to know what was happening out there. And I do want to make sure that I state this in this meeting, that the alleyway is not affected in any ways, not in the vacation of the easement, nor in the replat. The alleyway will stay. The 20-foot alleyway is going to stay. Okay. Hasn't been approved by the city of Portales. They signed off on it. It has met all the rules and regulations of our subdivision ordinance. I ask for your approval. I stand for any questions.
Johnny, is this right there behind the vineyard? I mean,
It's right behind the vineyard beside Mr. Lee's property. Mr. Long is the property owner that owns that Santa Fe style house just beside Mr. Combs, I believe, on Kilgore.
Okay. And it's just a partial? I
Yeah,
mean,
he just wants that there. It's East 11th Street, which goes.
That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, it's undeveloped. It's nobody's ever developed it. They maintain the property. He goes out there and mows it and everything. It's never been maintained. There's no landlocked issues because Mr. Merrick still has access off of Lamar Street, which is undeveloped also. And the Newells still have access from Lamar Street to the back of their property off of East 11th Street. There's no landlocked issues. There's nothing. Mr. Long, all he wants to do is maintain it like he's always doing now, but he wants to build a nice fence around his property.
And all the landowners in the area have received letters, because wouldn't this be the same deal as closing a road? When we close a road,
This
we
road
have,
is not developed though.
Okay.
It's never been maintained. It's been dedicated on a plat. And it's never been developed. It's never been used. It's never been opened. So it's never been maintained. So to me, it's not even a road. It's just a undeveloped road that's been dedicated at one time.
I didn't even know it made it all the way to Kilgore right there, because it comes all the way off Road P, that, don't it?
No, this goes off of East 12th Street, and then you can turn left to Lamar. It's an undeveloped Lamar Street on the plat, and then you go north maybe 300 feet, and then you run into 11th, which that one travels east and west to Kilgore, just beside Mr. Lee's property.
Okay.
And Commissioner, this was included in your packet.
Yeah, I was looking at it, but
If you want to see the actual plat, I can show it to you. for
where
reference.
12 comes into Kilgore is what you're saying.
Yeah, 12 comes into Kilgore, and then Kilgore wraps around to Modesto and then to East University Drive. Over there in that area.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, if you have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 8A.
I'll second.
By Johnny Montill.
I have a motion to approve item 8A, the undeveloped road of Norman James subdivision. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
On to B. Request to approval of type 3B summary subdivision replat of lots 1, 2, 4, 5 of the Norman James subdivision.
Now that we partially vacated that road, now we have to do a replat of that same property to include lots 1 and 2, which encompass the 60 feet. And so we have to adjust those lot lines. And so he has applied to replat lots 1 and 2, and also lots 4 and 5. Of course, it's in the same location, 200 feet north of the intersection 12th and Kilgore. There's 4 lots contained in this replat. The replat will be combining lots 1 and 2 into track A with a total acreage of 1.918 acres. And also combining lots 4 and lots 5 into track B with a total acres of 1.256. Again, I want to say that the alleyway will not be affected. It will stay as an alleyway. Under Roosevelt County Subdivision Ordinance, Article 6, Summary Review, Section 13, and Special Procedures under Section 13.4, Replat and Lot Line Adjustments is what we're following. There were no adverse opinions from utilities or landowners, and also has been approved by the city of Portales. It has met all the rules and regulations of our subdivision ordinance. I ask for your approval, and I stand for any questions.
Chair, I move we approve.
Second.
We move and second that we approve the type 3 summary replat of lots 1 and 2, 3, or 4 and 5. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, guys.
May it be approved. Item C, presentation of payment design documents, oppositions for New Mexico DAR, well, all that, MAFR AV project for the North Road AV, and request consideration of proposes variances. I'm gonna get some glasses to Roosevelt County Road Ordinance. Mr. Mathis and Ricky Lovato.
Hello, I'm here over Zoom. Can you guys hear me?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. We hear you. Mr.
Great. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and thank you for your time today. My name is Ryan Mathis. I'm a project manager with the Federal Highway Administration, Central Federal Lands. I also have my pavements engineer, Robert Norick, here over Zoom, should any technical questions arise. But currently, we're working on a design for a roadway project for the North Roosevelt Road AV, which is a 5-mile north-south road between US Highway 60 to the north and the Melrose Air Force Range to the south. This is located approximately 40 miles west of Clovis. This project is funded by the Defense Access Road Program. And there's a hard $6 million ceiling for construction costs on this one, which will come into play later. So the U.S. Air Force is our funding partner for this one, and the road is county maintained. In general, the proposed project is for roadway improvements to the existing gravel road. The project is currently at the 30% design milestone, pending direction from the county commission today. We held a 30% site visit back on October 18th. We had participants from the Air Force, Roosevelt County, including Rick Lovato, FHWA, including myself, as well as our design consultant. At 30% design, it currently shows us asphalt paving the roadway to a 22-foot width. And with this design comes some possible variances that we would need to discuss today. Amber, do you have my presentation materials, or would it be helpful if I shared my screen?
Yes, if you'll share your screen, that would be great.
Awesome. Okay. Give me just a second. It says, oh, there we go. Host disabled participant screens sharing. If I try to share, it says host disabled, participant screen sharing.
You let Robert share, not Ryan. No, I don't see it now.
Okay, so all the commissioners were provided that. How about you can be creative and use your hands? Because I cannot get this to work on this end. My apologies, sir.
We can make it work, no worries. So I think one of the key topics of discussion during our 30% review, and this will be the first topic conversation for this meeting today on my part of the agenda, was the proposed pavement section that we showed on there, which was 3 inches of asphalt over 4 inches of aggregate base. Just for a little background, this design is based on a full pavement investigation we did and analysis during the scoping of this project that included borings, samplings, and testing. And based on that, we came up with our 3 inches of asphalt over 4 inches of aggregate base to meet a 25-year design life per FHWA design standards. However, during that site visit and review, both the county as well as some of the Air Force staff expressed concern with this pavement design due to the existing subgrade materials of the road and general local knowledge of the area. This necessitated a second meeting that we did after the trip, which was held on October 31st. That included FHWA, Roosevelt County, as well as the Air Force to discuss these comments and concerns with the pavement design. And through that discussion, we've developed 3 alternative pavement designs to be considered. And so before I get into those alternatives, and I know Rick has opinions on them, I think my first request today is that we're looking for individual rulings on each proposed alternative. That way we can let the Air Force know which options are acceptable to the county, and they can make a decision for how we want to proceed with our design. We don't want to design something that's not going to be acceptable to the county, and are looking for direction now so that we can proceed with the project and have a project acceptable to all involved parties. So this was one of my other handouts that I'll just try to describe the best I can, but we have 3 alternatives. Alternative A is the design that we showed in the 30% plans that there was hesitation from the county on, but this includes 3 inches of asphalt over 4 inches of aggregate base. And as I mentioned before, that gives us a design life of 25 years. Earlier, I had mentioned a $6 million construction ceiling for the Air Force's funding source. That is a hard ceiling that, if it's exceeded, the project would not be built. It would stop at design. And with what we currently have in there, we are right, based on our engineer's estimate, right around that ceiling. And so we see that as a medium to high risk of that budget being exceeded, and therefore the project not being built without additional funding sources. And at this time, we have no identified additional funding sources. This design would utilize 2 inches of existing aggregate material to meet the 6-inch aggregate base requirement from Roosevelt County Policy Ordinance number 2017-05 minimum road construction standards. And with this design, I won't speak to what you guys would do in maintenance. You'll know what your way of handling things are, but typically from our perspective, we see maintenance consisting of a single course chip seal on an 8 to 10 year cycle. So Rick, I maybe it's easiest for you to speak to that one now, and then we can move to the next alternatives with your recommendation.
So Chairman, Commissioners, he speaks of 2 inches that is existing out there. I doubt that there's 2 inches there. I would like to see the 6 inches total of base course there. I really don't see alternative A really working for us. I really think that we need to look at alternative B is where we need to go, Ryan, is with this.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and start describing alternative B. And this this one would meet what Rick described as his preference. Alternative B is 3 inches of asphalt over 6 inches of aggregate base. In addition to that aggregate base, there would be some subgrade stabilization with cement for the northern 2.5 miles based on the existing materials out there and county recommendation for the subgrade. This alternative would have a design life of about 45 years. The tough part with this one is that it is anticipated that the construction cost would be significantly greater than alternative A, and then would therefore exceed the Air Force's current budget. And that would make me think that there's a high risk of the budget being exceeded, the construction budget being exceeded, and therefore the project would not get built without identifying additional funding sources. And similar to alternative A, our maintenance that we would typically expect is a single course chip seal on an 8 to 10 year cycle. Rick, if you have anything you want to add to that, go ahead.
Well, it speaks for itself. The design life of 45 years over 25 years says it all. And I'm looking to the future where when I'm gone, that hopefully the road department doesn't have to do any kind of, well, eventually they'll do some kind of maintenance, but no major maintenance on this road. So alternative B, the money thing, I don't know what to tell them about that, but that's the way I would go is alternative B if I was telling y'all to select one of these alternatives.
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, I don't see it on here. What's the $1 million question? What's the price over the cap? If there's $6 million of military monies going into it, he said it's going to be significantly higher than that, than they're selling. Do you have a cost estimate?
I do have some kind of rough numbers put together. So the alternative A, I think we have some pretty good numbers because that's what we designed 30% to. And then B and C are a little bit rougher just because we haven't done the full design on them yet. But based on those, we're thinking alternative B is closer to like 33% over budget, which would work out to about $8 million project. Would be my guess, and then I can speak to what C would be once we talk about C.
So our funding resources would have to come from the state, local level, or feds. Can we tap into financial resources like with our congressional staff and not it be a conflict with the DAR's monies? Because $2 million is a significant amount. I mean, we can't just come up with $2 million at our level.
It is a significant amount. I don't have a programming and financial background, and I would have to check in with my folks over here. My understanding is that the DAR funding can be supplemented with other funds. That would have to be a case-by-case basis on what would be acceptable to supplement it and what would not. So I know that's not a definitive answer, but that's my understanding at this time, is that there are funds that are out there that could be supplemented. They just haven't been identified, and we would have to make sure that they don't conflict with those DAR funds.
Well, we try to do things as a county based on need. This road has been needed to be replaced or redone for many, many years already. So there's no way you guys can tap into additional funds through the military to supplement the $2 million difference and increase the ceiling.
The ceiling, my understanding, is written into law and is something that would take, an act of Congress to change. And so there's maybe some discussions about that ceiling being increased at some point, but that is not something we can count on at this time. And the Air Force, my contact at the Air Force says he doesn't have any other funds he knows of that he can use to supplement this at this time.
Okay. So ultimately, it's going to be our responsibility to supplement the additional $2 million. The other problem I've had is that we don't, I've mentioned this before, we don't benefit with GRT or anything from the range. It all goes to Curry County and the city of Clovis, if I'm not mistaken, right, Amber?
You are correct in terms of what they've been able to provide in terms of documentation.
Exactly. So we can't like say, oh, we've got this piggy bank from GRTs that we've benefited from the military because we get zero. So that's my other concern, because they're not going to be willing to chip in. We've already requested that from them. So, gosh, this is a toughie because there is a timeline. It's way overdue. That road needs to get done. So maybe we'll have to talk to legislators at every level, Amber. I don't know. I mean, the session's about to come in and we could address it with them.
Well, and he does have another option he needs to present.
Right, but that's probably going to be even more expensive than B.
Mr. Lovato,
Yes, sir.
am I correct? Is there, the only difference between A and B is 2 inches of aggregate or cleachy, whatever?
2 inches of aggregate and also the cement part for the 2.5 miles.
And what does that actually consist of?
It's to my best knowledge, it's a powder cement that they put on top of the road and they start mixing it to make it a binder, a better binder for that road. So that sand is not just a sugar sand, so it's tight, so it'll hold up for the future. And you can put your base course on top of that.
So is it typically the cement? What is the main expense?
I would
between
think
A and B, because 2 inches of cleachy, I mean, they just got through doing 60, 70 miles out there on the range of the
Correct.
same material.
Correct. Me and Miss Hamilton have a very difficult time wrapping our head around this $6 million mark that's being presented for 5 miles of asphalt. It just blows our mind away that it's so expensive.
I noted, Ricky, I don't mean to interrupt, but what you mentioned earlier is the biggest incentive for the road department. You mentioned the 25-year compared to the 45-year design life. I mean, is that the selling point? Is that what you're looking at? Or
we're not equipped to go in and replace, 2 miles of hot mix in 10, 15 years from now when it fails, because I truly believe those 2.5 miles off the highway will fail if we don't do something underneath that base course. The subgrade needs something underneath it to hold up the amount of traffic that's going to go across there to the bombing range. And we're going to be held liable for the maintenance. After they pull out, they're done. So the county is going to be liable for all the maintenance on that road from then on. And this is why we need to do it correctly today, this time, not come back in 15 years trying to figure out where we're going to come up with more money to fix those 2 miles again, 2.5 miles. It's off the highway. So I stay firm. I'm going to hopefully suggest to y'all that y'all go with alternative B.
Mr. Lovato,
Yes, sir.
on your 25 years design of life, 45, that's on standard traffic. That ain't Air Force traffic. Would it be with large trucks, heavy loads?
And you see this, Mr. Lee, I mean, going to the dairies, we've really got to beef these roads up.
Oh, yeah.
These roads have got to be beefed up because the amount of heavy traffic that, and I can't remember the numbers. Me and Miss Hamilton went over some numbers. One truck was like, I think it was 50,000 cars. One loaded truck is the amount of 50,000 cars.
Mr. Lovato,
So
in that area, if you've ever been out there, it's very sandy in places. It's equal to like the state line. How many times has the county redone the state line road with multiple loads of aggregate? And it lasts one harvest season because you have hundreds of trucks, and we're talking hundreds of trucks a month out there. So I really don't think your timeline on your years is And then Ricky said, when they pull out, it's all on us to come up with not chip seal stuff we can afford. We're talking asphalt, the most expensive and base course there is.
Just this year, Mr. Lopez, we spent, I think we hauled 80 loads on the state line, like Mr. Lee said. To go find it now is going to be pretty hard to find it. That sand just eats it, it gobbles it up. The cement is a really good idea to put underneath the base course to have as a subgrade to bind it, to make it firm and solid underneath there.
Well, it's gonna be high quality because federal specs, they're not gonna not make it high quality. So I'm very confident that it's gonna be to the highest
Correct.
quality.
I just want the highest one though. The
Commissioner
B.
Lopez, I have a hard time with that because building a good road, if it was going to something that helped the community, helped the residents, built a tax base or something, this road is only used by about 2 people I know that live down there. And that's spending millions of dollars in maintenance down the road. I don't see how not taking the best situation would benefit our residents. I mean, like you said, we'd collect no tax base off the base. So why are we willing to go in there and say, hey, we're going to take over this for y'all? I think if this road deal's done, I'm fixing to be finished, but this needs to be a road plan with the Air Force that they maintain it, because Ricky and them, I don't think need to maintain it. And we're looking at all these deals and all these, but the end of the word is when they leave, it's our maintenance. We had a road in my county, in my district down in my district over there, that was rebuilt to make it to the city sewer really good. It become a very liable road because many accidents was happening because it was fast. And then we had to close it because we was going to get sued from all the accidents. You remember that road that you and I had? I see this happening with this road. If we build a freeway out in the middle of pasture, kids going out there racing up and down them roads, and somebody will get hurt, and then we're going to be in trouble. I don't think the county should have any maintenance or what's the word I'm looking for here? Liable for anything on that road.
Can I speak to, if that's okay, to a
Yes.
few of the things that popped up in discussions? So the first thing, sorry, I apologize, I didn't catch the names, but someone was asking about the difference between alternative A and B in cost. Rick did speak to the majority of the costs there being the extra aggregate as well as the subgrade stabilization with cement. Additionally, there is going to be some more excavation required outside of the roadway that would, for drainages and that type of stuff that was added into it, and not as significant as the others, but that is another added cost to that. The next thing is the overall cost of the project. And we do work with plenty of counties throughout the country. And this is, we're hearing similar things from you guys that we do hear from a lot of them. The way things are, these federal jobs are always more expensive than the more local ones. And, that's just kind of how it goes. All of our prices we used in our estimates are based off of, bids we've received in the past and awards we've made. And so, that's just kind of the cost of business with us. And so I know that's maybe not a great answer, but that's just the way things are for us. And agreed, it might be much less for a local entity to do the project. As far as the maintenance of the road goes, we do have a project agreement that has, I believe, been signed by all parties, including the Air Force County as well as Federal Highway Administration. And one of the roles and responsibilities is for upon acceptance of the completed project, the county will provide long-term maintenance and operation of the facility in agreement with the parties. I hear your concerns, and I can't really speak to the local dynamic between the county and Air Force. But if that's something that's going to change, that's going to redo the whole project agreement and, kind of bring us back to square one. So just wanted to bring that up and let you know that for your knowledge.
Is there a sunset on this money? A timeline that you guys have to utilize it?
Not that I'm aware of. But I would have to ask the Air Force that, considering they're the partner bringing funds to the table. If it's okay, I'll move to alternative C that we haven't discussed yet, and then we'll kind of have the three ones laid out. So alternative C is for 12 inches of surface course aggregate. So this would be not paving it with asphalt. And this gravel surfacing would be designed based on our FHWA catalog method. And if there's more questions about that, I'll need Robert to speak to that. But the benefit of this one is that the construction cost is estimated significantly less than alternative A and B. My current engineer's estimate is that we'd be 20% under budget, and that puts us at about 4.7 million. So pretty comfortably under the 6 for now. With that, obviously it's now still a gravel road. So maintenance would consist, typically from what we see, of blading every other month during the 6-month haul season, and then maybe once in the remaining 6 months. But, Rick can speak better to what you guys would do locally, but that's just kind of what we see. We don't have an associated design life with that, but we would expect resurfacing with a few inches of surface gravel on that road every 8 to 10 years. So, just to recap, we have the alternative A, which we think is very close to our ceiling and may or may not exceed it. But that is the one that, based on Rick's local knowledge, is not supportive of. Alternative B does increase our aggregate to something that I would imagine is acceptable to Rick based on what I've heard, as well as the subgrade stabilization. This alternative is going to exceed our budget, and we would likely design the project and it wouldn't get built, would be my best guess of what happens. And then alternative C of surface course aggregate would keep us under budget, but has the associated maintenance needed for gravel roads. Any other questions? Or Rick, do you want to speak to alternative C?
Sure. Alternative C, there's no way we could have a blade there every 2 months. And it would fall apart just as fast as the rest of it. So to me, alternative B would be the way to go.
And Ryan, I would like the record to reflect that we truly, truly support the military, but we have to protect our residents, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And like Mr. Chairman said, Chairman Lee, we've got to look at the future and see what's going to be cost effective, what's going to protect our citizens. There's really no benefit to our citizens at all. And it's going to be probably a cost burden, probably after my life. But nonetheless, we've got to protect the future of Roosevelt County. So it's not that we're not supporting the military. It's just, if there's any way you guys can find a way to at least pay for the whole project, and then maybe we can discuss things after that.
Well, maybe we ought to do 4 miles of Plan B, and the last southern mile just put Cleachy.
My
I think it's
understanding,
all or none, right? When with DAR's money, it's all or none.
correct. My understanding is that from the Air Force is that we can't break up the project with this funding source.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the 6 inches of aggregate on alternative B, we're talking about caliche there? And where would you propose to obtain this 6 inches of aggregate?
So this is maybe a question that's also up for consideration. So on the ordinance number, excuse me, Roosevelt County Policy Ordinance number 2017-05, minimum road construction standards. I do notice that it says on number C3 says the road base shall consist of at least 6 inches of non-spec base course and then parentheses caliche. That is a material, and I may need Robert to step in, that we typically would use a FHWA and or New Mexico DOT base standards for. And I don't know if that would meet your guys' definition of caliche. Robert, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so when we construct roads, so we have our FHWA base that we have on a lot of roads, and it's very tough spec, right? I mean, LA abrasion, we're pretty tough when it comes to quality on that. When we get into some of our smaller quantity projects, we will accept a New Mexico, a New Mexico DOT base. So New Mexico DOT has their own bases that they have in their specification. And on smaller projects, we will accept it because we look at it as, hey, if our DOT partner's using it, we can use it, right? When we have our larger projects, we have a much tighter quality specification. So on this one, when we do projects, we wouldn't be using caliche base. So, I mean, that would be something that we would want, like say, a variance from, because like I say, when we work with our partners, we work with counties, we work with state DOTs, kind of our standard practice is that we use our federal specifications, right? And that's because we use those all the time. We know we get the quality. And if all of a sudden we start mixing and matching specifications, our material quality is likely to go down, right? Because that's not what we always do. And like I say, when it comes down to material specifications, we're real tough on, we have our own lab that we have here in Lakewood, Colorado. Materials are tested there, and we test in comparison sometimes to state DOTs. They don't necessarily test during construction. We test all the time, right? So when it comes to asphalt, we're taking samples every 700 tons and we're testing it. Base, we're doing something similar, right? So we make sure that quality is up to standards and that contractors not giving us a substandard product. So yeah, we would want like I say, a variance from caliche, because really for the project, we would, with the current design, and even if we go with 6 inches of base, we would not be using a caliche base. We would be using a base that essentially meets either our spec or New Mexico DOT.
So you're saying that the 6 inch base would not be caliche?
That's what it sounds like.
That's correct. Yeah, that, because again, we have our specifications we use, and like say when we're doing real large projects, because we do projects in all the national parks and everything else, and when we're doing a real large project, we have our specifications that have to be met, and often state DOT specs don't even meet that, right? But when we get into some smaller quantity projects, it's just not economical to have a local producer produce something that specifically meets federal specifications, right? It gets to be, if I'm buying 500 tons of aggregate base, a quarry's not going to crush that and make that. It would be uneconomical for them to do that to meet our specifications, right? So when we get into smaller quantities, we'll be like, yeah, we'll accept. The quarry's always making New Mexico DOT base, so we'll accept it on a smaller quantity project. Right now, with the current, as we have the project currently designed, because of the quantities we're talking about and being 5 miles of road, it's right now, the way it's designed, it's falling into our federal spec, because it's a large enough quantity that we look at quarries would need to crush it and make that base to meet our specifications. But that is one area in order to keep this project under the budget that even though it's large quantity, we might need to accept a New Mexico DOT base. But yeah, it would not be a caliche base.
So what would the base be? Do you know, Mr. Lovato?
I do not know. There's caliche there. I don't know if they're gonna freight it in from miles and miles. Is that why the expense is so high? This is baffling to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, usually what you find is, there should be, a local quarry that produces a New Mexico DOT base. And like I say, yeah, I mean, might not be right out of, within 20 miles of the project, right?
Ms. Dixon had something she was wanting.
Okay, so just my opinion, y'all. I don't see where this is a win-win for us. No way you look at it. I feel like every single one of these is some way against us. I mean, we don't have one of our residents that pay their taxes and they put money into this county that gets service like this. I mean, and then we're going to just go ahead and bypass the fact that they're not going to use what are our specs. They're our specs. This is what we say that we want. That's what we want for everybody to do with the caliche and everything else. And because they're the Air Force, we're not going to make them do that when it's the one that's the best. And then we're going to have to maintain whatever we get here when it's not even our paying taxpayers that are actually using the majority of this road. And I just feel like any way we go, and especially with B, which I understand why you want B out of this, but with that, it's going to fall on us again to go find that extra $2 million that we could be using that $2 million for our taxpayers' roads, not this road out here, which I do understand there are a couple of residents out there. But to me, I just feel like any way we go with this, we're the ones that's ending up having to pay for all of this when we're not the ones that are tearing it up. And to me personally, I don't like any of them.
With that, you're saying caliche wouldn't be a good base. What did they just put 80 miles on the bombing range? Of
80
what?
miles of caliche.
Of caliche, right? For the
Mhm.
same traffic.
Yeah.
So Robert, if we were, I mean, is there any way we could make caliche work, and what would that process be?
Yeah, what I would say would be, I mean, if there's a New Mexico DOT base that, like I say, if the caliche meets New Mexico DOT spec, it would be able to be used, right? But it would have to meet New Mexico DOT spec, right? So we don't get into, with our spec, for example, some states would have limestone as kind of the rock that's there. And I mean, as long as that limestone meets the spec, and you crush it to be the aggregate base and it meets the spec, it can be used, right? It's not like it all has to be granite, right? So, I mean, there would be a case where a caliche base could be used. We're not saying it can't be used. We're just saying that in our spec, we don't say provide us a caliche base, right? I mean, what we're going to say is, especially to keep this economical, we're going to say provide us a New Mexico DOT base. And so if there's a local producer and they have shown that caliche, they can make a caliche base that meets New Mexico DOT, then we can use it, right? So that's kind of the issue. It's just like, say, we don't, for example, if we're in the Rocky Mountains, we don't say you have to use granite, right? So that we're not specifying, what kind of rock it is. We're just saying it can be limestone, it can be granite. It just has to meet, in this case, if we want to go with New Mexico DOT, we would just be saying it just has to meet New Mexico DOT base spec, right? And so up front, that's what's in the contract is, so say we go and we make this project use New Mexico DOT base, the contractor comes in, they find a local source, And they just need to submit to us that, yeah, that material meets New Mexico DOT specification, right? And even at that point, we test it and make sure that it does, right? So, and we're not testing it to make sure it meets federal specifications. We're saying, okay, if we're going to use a New Mexico DOT, we go with New Mexico DOT specifications, right? So anyway, I mean, that's, yeah, caliche could be used. It just like say, we wouldn't, in the contract, we're not going to say, we don't say caliche, right? We would say New Mexico DOT base. If it's made out of caliche, that's fine. It just has to meet their specification, right? That's kind of on that question. Like I say, different things that have been said. Alternative C, which is the base. There's really not a life to aggregate base, right? So what happens is if you put 12 inches of base on there, you have to come in, like we said, that it'd be like maybe every 10 years and you have to just add a few inches of aggregate to that. So, and like I say, we do a lot of, for the Air Force, we do a lot of roads in multiple states where we go in and resurface roads for them and put an aggregate like that. And like I said, and then with alternative A, again, so we've designed it according to AASHTO, so the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. It's the specifications we designed to. And so we've designed that to essentially it's to withhold. I mean, it's designed for that truck traffic, and it will have a life of 25 years is what we designed to, right? So anyway, I guess any more questions there?
I have one more question. Why can't the federal government or the state come in and just take the road and build it to their specs and take care of the maintenance from now on? Well, I mean, they have the equipment out there on the base to take care of the base roads.
So,
Can we
Mr.
not?
Chair, I can speak to that. I mean, we have requested that. We have worked with them. We've made that request known when they've come in and presented to the commission about needing additional maintenance out there, because we are out there every 2 to 3 months as best we can, as we can get a blade through that rotation. And they have told us that their limits prevent them from bringing their equipment off of the base property and maintaining any kind of county road, because they do have the blade and the
But we're going
water.
to release the road to them. Would that be any different?
Uh,
As long
we
as
would
it's the
have to-
public transportation
We
road?
would have to close the road as a public road was my understanding. So we'd definitely have to look more in that, because we couldn't do that because then it landlocks all of the residents that do live down that way. So we haven't found a way to, you can't just release the road maintenance to them without we could get a agreement in place, and that's what we propose, but that's not something they've been willing to consider at this point, because they say that they're prohibited federally from bringing their equipment off the base land for any such, because we propose the same kind of road use agreement that we've done with several other entities, and they did not feel like they had the appropriate channel to get something like that adopted.
Furthermore, I'm going to add to Commissioner Lee's, we're kind of thinking on the same way. We really are. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
But before you mention that, Commissioner Lee, I was going to mention, is there any, and it may be a legal question and maybe off the wall question, but can we get Curry County to annex that road into Curry County? But
Yeah,
that wasn't a joke.
I don't think.
They're the ones that reap the
nowhere-
benefits they have for many, many years. We get zero.
Well, I just have a hard time that I know when the state highway come in and widen out 70, they took land. I have plenty of neighbors that didn't want to give up their fence lines and their land, and they came in and took it. And now then the state's responsible for that piece of property to take care of it, keep the fences up, keep the road built. What'd be the difference in the state coming in, taking that strip? It's still public road to their gate, and then the state
highway.
and then the state's responsible for taking it. Federal government can deal with the state. And they can take care of the maintenance on it. And we won't have to worry about it.
Mr. Chairman, on the state specs, our LGRF and CAPS, it's got to meet state specs. Our base does.
We won't even be worrying about it because it'd be a state deal.
Well, I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
That our caliche does meet state spec.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's there. And I'm pretty sure if they do go out for bid and everything, it would be more than likely Caliche in the area.
And I feel like it would be less than the 6 million. If they went out and bid out, which I don't believe they have yet.
No, they haven't. From the last meeting we had, right, Brian?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't quite hear that.
Nothing's gone out for bid. This is just
No.
cost estimates.
No, we're at 30% design. We won't go out to bid until 100% design has been completed.
Can you guys come back to us then?
Well, so I think from my perspective and why we're coming to you today is that, there are a few factors in design that we need to get clarified that the county would be acceptable with so that we can design to 100%. What we don't want happen is to us design something to 100%, come back to you guys for approval on the project, and we find out, okay, we can't do this, or this. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, but can you get the cost estimate when you guys do the analysis on what it would cost to keep everything local? Or within our proximity, whether it's Curry or Roosevelt County, like when y'all subcontract it out? Because I think it's gonna be significantly lower if we get the local Caliche bids from our area to provide y'all's thing, or do you guys have an ongoing federal agreement with subcontractors from elsewhere?
Yeah, that's maybe something that's not in my area of expertise, but I will say with our engineer's estimate at this point, this is something that we feel pretty confident in our numbers. And I understand that it's way different than what you guys might see for your projects, but that's kind of how these federal contracts generally go. And our prices are based off of a lot of information, including information within the state of New Mexico to base this off of.
Yeah, everything's high scale once you get to the federal government. So yeah, that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Would
So if
Curry
I'm
consider doing
understanding,
maintenance? Do you think Curry County might consider doing maintenance on that road? If we was to go through all this, could we just to do maintenance? I mean, they don't want to give any money, but will they do?
Again, we reached out to Curry County. This isn't a road that's in their county, and they're not set up any differently than we are. They do not have an asphalt crew. They run off of chip seal. They run off of Caliche and dirt roads, just like our county does. So they do not have a different set of equipment for the maintenance that we know we will be incurring on this roadway. No, ma'am, sorry.
so if I can interject, so, okay, so your last resident is like 4 miles down the road. Is that kind of what there's the one idea of, can you do one thing for the first 4 miles and then say something else for the last one? Is that kind of, so am I hearing that you guys don't really care about the last mile to get to the gate?
That's true.
That's true. I mean,
So so only the question I'd have, Ryan, would be, I understand that because this came up with the Air Force was, oh, okay, if we have enough money to do 3 miles, can we do 3 miles? And they're like, no, we can't do that. And I knew I worked for the Army, and they said that puts you into jail, right? Because you can't build things incrementally. But the question here would be, we're not building incrementally, but what about if we did asphalt for the first 4 and then did 12 inches of base for the last 1? And if that cut off enough money to get us under the Air Force budget, and that'd be a question for Ryan. I mean, it kind of mesh B and C together and try to get under the dollar amount for the Air Force. And we wouldn't be building incrementally, which is what the Air Force is, what they can't do, right? We're building a project. It's the full 5 miles. It's not like we're only building 4 and then having the road fall apart, right? We're still building 5 miles to serve the Air Force's purposes.
That would have to go back to the Air Force for their acceptance. We need all parties on the same page here. So, yeah, I would have to check in with them on that.
But seems like from the county's perspective, what you guys like, really the only solution you like right now is alternative B, right? And the quandary we're in is there's not the money to pay for B by the Air Force, right? So maybe there's a way to get to a win-win where we can meet the Air Force budget, but have the county have the asphalt road they want.
Well, I do have a meeting set up with the Air Force in the next couple days to discuss, what came out of this meeting and how we want to move forward. So, I can try to find other alternative solutions. But I don't know what's going to be acceptable to them or not. I know this is going on a while, and I do appreciate everybody's time and thought on this. So I think from my perspective, we have these three alternatives that we've proposed. There's been some good discourse on them. Ultimately, the Air Force has decided, hey, we want to design this thing no matter what. And then we'll see what the price is. And so I am looking for some direction on what we can do here. And so I would, I guess I would be looking for decisions on each of the alternatives, but would certainly welcome more questions. I just want to be respectful of everyone's time.
I'm all right.
The reason I asked the question about where the aggregate, where we would get it. And we got to talking about material specifications. And I thought you indicated that our roads that we build have to meet state material specifications.
Correct.
And we're using caliche.
Correct.
And so when I was, Tina and I had an opportunity to visit the bombing range, we saw, as Commissioner Lee indicated, many miles of caliche road. So if that caliche that they are using to build their caliche roads meets specifications, and they are getting that caliche more or less on site, it looks like it would be a short high haul and a cheap source. If that met specifications, and that could reduce the cost of this 6 inches of aggregate. So I would like to explore the possibility of the caliche that the Air Force has available right there. If that meets specifications, if it does, could that reduce the cost?
There is not a pit on the bombing range. Everything's coming in from either Portales or Clovis.
I did notice that there is a caliche right there. I think it belongs to Tom Davis.
Just south of Melrose, there's one. I think it closed the doors a couple months ago, I think.
Tom's doesn't have one.
He has, it's not open.
Well,
Oh, yes, right off the road. Yes, sir.
I would stand right behind my road superintendent. The alternative B is the only one that doesn't look like it's going to cost Roosevelt County in maintenance as much money down the road as any of the other. Because when you start stipulating how many times you want us to blade it, how many times you want us, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Criswell would like his road blade like that. He goes in and out 4 or 5 times a day too. I mean, we cannot guarantee we're going to put a blade out there to take care of a caliche top. We can't do a partial payment on item A because down the road, we're going to be down out there fixing roads all the time. Correct. It's either B, that'll last long enough that maybe we can get some more funding for maintenance, or I'm not willing to put on any of the other ones.
So I don't know if we need to do a vote here to decide on A, B, or C, but it's basically what Ryan's asking for, isn't it?
Correct.
A decision today.
Yes, that is what I'm asking for.
But it's at the commission's discretion. So you decide if you are comfortable with anything, or if you want to recommend that he pursue option B and come up with option D, like y'all discussed, of going as far as you possibly can with pavement, and then the last mile being what it is, anything along those lines. What we were communicated with is that they are more time sensitive on their end. Obviously for us, there's no rush for the commission in terms of we have to take action. It is more for their design requirements and what they need to continue to move forward and stay on the timeline. Because we've been told there is a time sensitivity to this. I know that question was asked earlier, and we were told that there is a time requirement to the design and then a time requirement for the construction. So there is some kind of time attached to this project in which these funds are not there indefinitely. It's use them or lose them is what we were advised.
Correct. And I'd like to point out that he did mention that they're at the 30% of development of this project, and they're not going to proceed unless we take some type of action in favor of, because they're not going to be, well, legally obligated to proceed with it at 100% and us not commit, right?
Correct. So yeah, you're right. We're at 30% now. With our current schedule, the hope is that we would construct next summer, start construction next summer and finish up in the fall. We are in a very tight schedule to get that done. And if that doesn't happen, we'd be looking at pushing into the following year for construction. And so that's why we're here today to hopefully get an answer. But, I just want to say, like, I understand everyone's concerns. Rick and I have talked and I understand. I'm just trying to figure out something that works for FHWA, the county, and the Air Force. So I do appreciate your guys' time and thought on this.
And Mr. Chair, if I can, one of the other things that they had mentioned, it hasn't come up yet, but they asked about the road width requirement and a potential of a variance for that. And I know that's something that both Mr. Lovato and I have talked about because we do have a minimum requirement of a 24-foot roadway in our road ordinance. However, there are various county roads, as we all know, they may be built. Some are wider than 24. And as we continue to see the raveling on the side, some of them are less than 24, some of these older county roads. They had talked about designing to a 22-foot width, I believe, Ryan, if that's correct. And so that is one of the variances that we did not stand in opposition to from administrative point of view in terms of the variance of that 2 feet, which could have an impact on the pricing as well.
I would like to say, that seems to be the only one that's going to work for us, but I don't want, if we choose that one, I don't want the county to be the one that's responsible to come up with that remaining 2 million or whatever it is that we have to. That's not what the county going and using up our resources and.
Well, Ryan, I'll put it this way. What does Roosevelt County benefit by building this road? What, here we are, we're stewards of the money for our residents. How does that benefit us to agree to build any of this? I mean,
so I would say
it does not better our community any. It is not a local road to the schools. It's not a local road to the town. I mean, it's a road that just goes out there to 2 residents that may not want to live on pavement. The reason they live there.
So what I would say, the benefit from my perspective, and I understand mine might be different than yours, is that if we're able to stick within that $6 million construction budget, I was out there a few weeks ago. I saw the condition of a road. I suppose the benefit would be that we'd be getting a new road that the county, like I said, if we were able to stay under the $6 million budget, there's no financial obligation for the construction of the project. And so we'd be getting a new road out there that you're currently maintaining is in, for lack of a better term, rough shape.
So Amber, so I mean, the
for
commission could approve something like, they could do something like alternative B for the northern 4 miles and alternative C for the southern 1 mile, right? I mean, they could do a motion to do something like that, right?
You mentioned rough shape. What's the reasoning behind that road being in rough shape?
Rick, if you could speak to that with your local knowledge.
Okay, I thought you were asking
Sorry.
him. That's
May-
Mr.
maybe-
Grider. He goes
maybe he
down it
was.
100 times a day. No, you know, it's the traffic going inside that bombing range every day. I don't know how many employees are out there, but I'm sure there's 100 cars going in and out of there every day. Then you got the trucks that are hauling in the caliche for all of the roads that's inside the bombing range. And then you get all the tanks and stuff that they haul out there just to blow up and, you know, for their exercises. And then you get your, you know, I'm all about service, all these servicemen, but you get the servicemen that are going out there to do their training. And so it's just continuous traffic out there with the bombing range. I think Mr. Grider and Mrs. Grider uses it probably 2 times a day, probably, if that,
And that traffic is 24/7.
24/7.
I mean, you can be outside and see cars at 11 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, or 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just back and forth.
So that's why the road is in the shape that it is in.
The road would benefit the country, USA. So why don't we take USA funds and build the whole road? Why are we asking
What, I don't
portion
think,
of a small community of it to pay for all of it?
I don't think they're asking us to pay for it.
Well, it would fall on us if we go without them, beats what they said earlier.
No,
2 million of it would.
no, negative.
No, so he said the cost estimate was 8 million.
Right.
We'd have to come up with 2 million.
No, he never did say that. He just said that they wouldn't build it.
So there would need to be additional funding sources to supplement the 6 million to get us to 8. I can't say where those would come from. I don't know. Yeah, I think county funds are a possibility. It sounds like you guys aren't interested in entertaining that, but I think it could come from other sources as well. We just don't have any identified at this time. And so I'm not asking for a $2 million commitment. I think more work would need to be done to try to find more funding. And I don't know where it would come from. But like Rick said, the Air Force is expecting us to design this. And so we're going to do that. If it's going to exceed the $6 million, what would likely happen is it would get designed and not built. Hopefully that clears things up a little bit.
If we lobby, like I mentioned earlier, the state and federal government, it's going to take away from the rest of our residents, because $2 million is a significant amount. And if it's earmarked for that project, it's going to affect Roosevelt County as a whole. Period.
For the sake of time, I'm going to ask, does any commissioner have anything they'd like to make a motion on any of these? Or do we want to move on?
I'll make a motion that we use only option B.
Do I have a second on that motion? Not, I'll second that motion. All those in favor of using alternative B as a road for them to appoint, I guess how you'd say that, I don't know.
The design.
The design B. I guess we'll roll call vote for that. Mr. Grider, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Dixon?
Yes.
No.
4 yes votes. So alternative B will be the one that Roosevelt County would see. 1 no vote. Thank you, Ricky.
Y'all.
Thank you, Ryan.
Ricky.
Thank you. And sorry, I know this has taken a long time, but Amber did mention the 22 width versus the 24 foot width. Would we need a ruling on that or to get that variation?
That's up to the commission at this point. We do not have any administrative concerns with recommending that variance is granted. If the commission wishes to take formal action on that and have it on there, just so that they can move with their design.
From 24 to 22.
22.
Does anybody have anything they want to discuss on that? That's been brought to us. Can we vote on that without being on, well, I guess it's the same
It's-
part of the agenda, so it would
Correct.
fall
It's
under.
all part of the same action because there were multiple variances that they were requesting.
With it being narrow, with the large traffic coming through, how will the residents get in and out if there's drainage? How deep's the drainage gonna have to be on it too? The bar ditches.
It's not going to be very deep.
See what I'm saying? If they're
Right.
coming out with a load of cattle and the tank's coming in on a truck.
I think it's going to stay about the same height that it is now is what they're proposing. So,
And the other variance that they're gonna want advice on is the crown, because we have a percentage crown. I believe it's 3%
3%.
that we require, and they want a variance of a 2% crown. And all of this was in that memo that was in your packet,
and I would stand to say I'd like to see the 3%.
just for the watershed,
Yes, sir.
especially on this fault.
Does anybody have?
And then do we need something with regard to the caliche to make sure that, and really when it comes to the caliche, it's not that we're saying they can't be used. What we say is we can make the project provide a New Mexico DOT base, right? And if they can find a source 1 mile away or 2 miles away, and a contractor coming in is going to want to do that, right? They don't want to haul it from Santa Fe, right? They're going to try to find a source that's close by that will meet New Mexico DOT specs. So are we good with, that's the other thing we would need to make sure that
that's
we're
I
okay.
believe that's what we were wanting was caliche base for the local residents that have caliche pits. Correct.
I feel like it
We're
should
good
all
with
have,
caliche.
I feel like it should all have to meet our specs, the
Mhm.
ones that we have, the whole road. Every part of it should have to meet our specs.
I think the 20,
I
I
think
think the, tw-
I just do. I think that all the other residents have to, and I think it should.
Well, I'll refer to Ricky on that too with him being.
I would say this, that 24 foot would make it really, I think it'll hurt our drainage because now you're taking away from the bar ditches now. Cause it's a narrow in spots.
Okay.
So and then there's hills there. Mr. Grider, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We start getting wider, then we start losing our back slopes too. So, I think the 22 is because of the sand, just because of the sand.
I'm fine. I'm going to go with what you recommend, Rick.
Okay.
I've always considered you to be sort of an expert on the roads, so.
So are we good with a 22-inch width with a 3% slope?
22 foot.
22 foot.
You said inch.
Yeah. But I know. All right.
With the
everybody
3% crown.
With a 3% crown. I have a motion on that.
I do.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, that the commission will stand with a 22-foot width and a 3% crown. Mr. Lopez, how do you vote?
You guys just have me really confused right now. There was a lot of dissent on this agenda item because of the obvious and.
I take,
Well, just no.
Tina? Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
3 yes votes. Does that give you some direction, Ryan?
Yes, and again, thank you for your time. I know that probably took longer than expected, but I will have conversations with the Air Force. I will let them know what was approved by you guys, and that is what we will plan to move forward with on our design. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank y'all. Thank you for zooming.
And Mr. Lovato, we'd like to invite you to stay around. There's no reason for you to leave if you would like to be here at the rest of this meeting.
I will stay on that one.
All right, let's move on to item D. Discussion and commission selection of city council personnel for the continuation service negotiations. So I was informed from Mr. Lopez and Ms. Dixon the city reached out to y'all as the 2 delegates they picked. Is that right? And so I guess it's up to us to pick 2 of their delegates that we'd like to see. If that's what we reached out to them, they picked 2, we picked 2, isn't that correct? So with that, I guess I'd just open the floor to any suggestions from any of the commissioners.
Are we supposed to nominate or are we just supposed to visit and talk for another hour?
Well, I guess we'll see what the general consensus, who would like to. I know Tina and Dennis probably have people they'd like to work with, and there's certain people I'd like to see in there too, so.
And there's certain people.
I think we'll just start it with the discussion, starting with, throw it up left or right. Who wants to go first? Paul or Dennis?
Well, go ahead, Commissioner Ryder.
All right, Paul. Who would you like to see on the?
I'd like to see Veronica and Chad on there.
Okay. Mr. Savage, you have anybody you'd like?
Yeah, I know there's, this is long overdue being passed. I know something needs to be done.
Yep.
But following the meeting, which I went and discussed it with the city council, and I did go back and look at the tape of that to make sure that I was correct on what Councilor Miller had said at the end of the meeting. And in my mind, I can't see any way you can misconstrue what he said was, Commissioner Savage, we decided to take your 175,000 and move towards an independent dispatch. So I thought it was a done deal. They were going to take our deal. Not only did I think it was a done deal, but the next morning, I went to Hobbs because I wanted to see their regional dispatch. I was very impressed with it. We went to a board meeting down there and I also went and visited the dispatch center. Very impressed with their operation. So, because I thought it was a done deal. Not only did I think it was a done deal, but Veronica Cordova, Deputy Bowen went, Lieutenant Sanchez went, we all went. We visited and we all thought it was a done deal. Hey, they said they were going to take the deal. This is the deal and this is where we're going. But evidently, there's been some miscommunication somewhere, but I thought at that time that it was a done deal because they said they would. But the ones that we're going to work with, I think should be those people from the council who took enough interest in it to go down there and look at the facilities. And so I'm interested in Deputy Bowen and Veronica Cordova. They're the ones that took initiative on their own to go visit the facility and educate themselves of what it's going to take to facilitate this JPA. So I'm looking at Deputy Bowen and Veronica Cordova.
Okay. Mr. Lopez, do you have recommendations?
I do. I agree with Commissioner Savage. My concern is that I don't want there to be a conflict, and I did discuss it with Chairman Lee. That would be my only concern because our newly elected sheriff sister is a city councilwoman. It's going to be directly involved with that. We've got Councilman Bowen as a deputy sheriff. That would be my concern. So it's also a legal question. So I don't know if our legal counsel would want to, because I like his choices. It's just, that would be my concern. The other person that's knowledgeable with his whole field and has a lot of expertise is Mike Miller. I mean, he was fire chief for many, many years. And I think that he has a wealth of knowledge. And I think he'd be a good person to represent at that capacity as well. So right now, I mean, I'd like to see Councilwoman Cordova. I really would, first and foremost. But like I said, I don't want there to be any type of conflict. And then I would be prone to choose Mike Miller.
So them are your ideas? Ms. Dixon?
Just an idea.
Well, I agree with Ms. Cordova. However, that's my concern with the conflict of interest. I would like to make it to where there is zero conflict in here. It's not on either side. I do like Chad. I'd like to see Chad on there for sure. And the other one that I would like to center, I do like Mike Miller because I feel like he has had a lot of expertise in the whole field. So he knows about all of it all the way around. So those are my two.
Mike and Chad?
Mike and Chad.
Okay. Well, my vote, since I'm the last one, I get to do that, is going to be Chad and Veronica. With that, I have four nominations for Veronica, 3 for Chad, 1 for Mr. Bowen, and 2 for Mike. So I believe we've come to the decision that Chad and Veronica should be our 2 delegates. If anybody would like to make the motion for that, Chair would entertain it.
To approve Chad and Veronica.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we select Chad Heflin and Veronica Cordova as the city council representatives to go into discussion on JPAs. Mr. Crowder, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Moving on. Item E, consideration proposed 2023 Roosevelt County calendar. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, so included in your packet was the draft 2023 calendar. Sorry, and it followed in line with 2022. We did, I conferred with our local our elected officials to make sure, especially with the clerk, to make sure that the canvassing falls where we need to on each of those. So they helped on each of those dates. I also tried to plan around the New Mexico counties. You'll see the winter conference in January. We typically only have one meeting then. And also in June, it would just be one meeting in June after the summer conference. So all those have been taken into effect. Everything else is standard, like it was. There's really no other changes. So the only month we still haven't been able to find a holiday for is August. So feel bad for the employees. They challenged me and I haven't been able to find that holiday yet.
Support your commission.
I'm like a
County
fair
employee
day,
day.
a county fair day,
August,
something.
yeah.
That's the only one. But anyways, it has been well received by our county employees as part of the appreciation that the commission expresses. I mean, when y'all adopted the Employee Appreciation Day in March a few years ago, that was very well received. A lot of times we do not tend to pay as competitive as the wages. And so things like this go a long way in terms of really communicating just how much we appreciate our staff, because we couldn't do this without them.
Couldn't we do something for like during the fairs? Because we do have a lot of employees that their kids show and stuff. And it'd be nice if they could just have a day off to go to the fair. I'd like to do something for that.
And Friday would be a really good one because a lot of kids ain't on school on Friday night. And then work on Friday, Ricky.
And you can certainly, if you want to look, I think the fair is that week of the 21st of August. So if y'all wanted to look at making the 25th a holiday, we can modify that and we can amend the calendar and pass it that way.
And you could look at, I never thought of it, but a school day for a lot of the parents. Some parents don't have a day they could, if they didn't want to go to the fair that day, they could go school supplies.
Or do what they want.
Yeah. I'm not good with any of the calendar next year, so I'm gonna tell you all that right now. I don't like none of it.
Do something for August for a fair day for employees.
Okay, so what about the option of then allowing 8 hours of holiday leave for the employee to take during that week? So instead of setting a specific day, if their kids show pigs and they need to miss Tuesday or sheep Wednesday or steers Thursday or the sale Friday, then let them take those 8 hours of personal leave at their leisure during the week of the fair.
Nice.
That's good. I like that.
And it doesn't come out of their holiday pay they already have, right? We're saying
No, this will
new.
be an additional
Little
8
8
hours
hours.
of holiday pay for them to select the day.
How about that?
think payroll's excited
Oh.
about. That's what I thought.
Are we ready to?
Oh, can we make that motion right now?
Use it during the.
I vote no.
I move to accept proposal from our county manager on agenda item 8E with that addition in August, a bonus day for county appreciation.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Me. All right.
Is that okay if you
Yeah.
live?
So everybody's clear. It's going to be the week of the fair. You can take it off any day of those 5 days. They ain't saying you have to have kids showing. You can go to Disneyland with that week. Yeah, way. I ain't telling them they have to go somewhere. Hey, you don't have a vacation the week before that though, do you? That would like make it like a long
No,
time.
there's no holidays in August.
Okay.
That would be the only 8 hours.
That's good. Employees deserve it. Like go for the commission too. We can go to the fair. Oh. All right, item F. Request approval of disposal of public auction, 2 HVAC units, removing the detention center, a 2008 Chevy F-150, a 2011 F-150, Dodge 1500, one 2015 Dodge Caravan from the sheriff's office, and one miscellaneous lot of furniture, equipment from the clerk's office.
Yes,
This
so.
is for the sale?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we use our public auction down here, or we go through public auction with the local auction company at BJA and have had great luck on those. They have their large winter sale coming up in December. And we know with the new fleet that we're bringing in for our sheriff's office, specifically, there was stuff to get rid of. And then we continue to replace our HVAC systems. And then Mandy cleaned out her office a lot. So we just don't want to, we worked so hard to get everything clean out of the fairgrounds and keep everything up. We just need to move this aside. So that's what you'll see with this. This is a requirement. And then our special meeting that we have on Thursday is so y'all can approve these minutes so that we can get everything submitted and through the state for approval.
To
for that.
VGA next month because they have so.
Correct.
I'll second item F. All those in favor of disposable of the units at the public auctions, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. G, request approval of disposal by donation of 2 basketball goals to Patel schools.
Yeah, so this one's one I'm really excited about. We had 2 basketball goals that were behind the Bonham house, and Rick's team went in there and did a fantastic job of clearing that out as we're getting ready. We've released the bid for the construction of the food pantry that we're going to be building here in Roosevelt County. Well, there was a little basketball goal there that we could not, like a little court from the prior use of that building. So we pulled those up, and I was able to reach out to Portales schools. They would love to have them. They would be able to use them. So we just want to reallocate those goals so that the schools can use those accordingly.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the disposal of the donation of basketball goals to Patel school. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we're going to recess from the Board of Commission and convene to, do I need a motion to go into canvas board?
So move, Mr. Chairman, to go into canvas board.
Oh, hold on. We need another coffee break.
We do. I was.
5 minutes? 5 minutes. So if you don't need to go anywhere, don't. I'm with you. I can go with you too. Oh. It's cold weather and you drink a lot of coffee.
I'm walking with a lot.
Oh.
Hey.
Might as well stretch. Hello. still in my meeting. We're just taking a little break. So what do we want to do? Because there was just a seat to the chance. Well, they did 30%. So you won't go.
How's your dad?
I was going to.
Did he speak or talk? Can he eat anything?
They got 6 minutes there, Mark. 3 years ago, 6 million right into now inflation is a lot better. It's not my problem. And I'm not people going by. I want the commission to say, accept that, you know, the lesser one.
I just can't see how everything's okay. Goes in there for one thing, and boom, we got this other problem.
It's just that I don't want to be finished. I do not understand. You see what I'm saying? Did they tell us that he had it for you? That's it, heart disease for you. Because now we're all in that. Well, then you would see something about low blood, high blood, low blood. Cholesterol being high, triglycerides being high. You have to know our local legislators and federal level legislators. That's what it was. That's it. I can do that. Then I agree. I've been a year ago for 5 years.
So I don't understand. It's like those other kinds of.
I just wanted to seem like it might. That's what was.
Who's my dude?
She's wrapping us down.
That jerky you give her.
I know. And it made it back. And you think we'll be done by one?
Oh.
No.
I don't want to miss.
12:25.
Nope. Because we have executive session. Oh, yeah. All right. We're back. We went to recess anyway, but now I need to have the motion again to come back into Board of Cabinets. Cabinet.
Canvas.
I can't get that out. Canvas. Ms. Dixon.
Yeah, I move we can make it for canvas, make it for canvas.
Mr. Lopez, how you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We're now in Board Canvas. Ms. Parks. Park.
I sent you all the numbers that we had, and I have them here in front of me. There were 159 voters at Deborah, 159 permits issued, 159 on the signature roster. Same at every other site. The number of voters that showed up to cast a ballot is the number of permits that were issued, was the number of ballots that were in the machine at the end of the day. They all matched, with the exception of the memorial building. There were 1,366 permits issued. 1,366 people signed the signature roster. 1,365 people put their ballot in. Somebody, we don't know who, because it was a busy site, 1,365 people in 12 hours. Somebody left without casting their ballot. We can't help that. So there's one fled voter who is unknown. We had, you shouldn't say 3 fled voters on early. I forgot to take that out from June. 1,246 in early voting. 1,246 permits issued, 1,246 people signed the signature roster. And at the alternate site, 448 at J. Clovis. All total mailed in ballot applications were 348. People requested their application that way, requested their ballot that way. We mailed out 348 ballots. 317 were returned. 315 were counted. 2 were rejected because their signature was not on the outer envelope. So those 2 were rejected by the absentee board. So a total of 292 were run through the tabulator. 23 were a little bit worn from the mail. They would not go through the tabulator. So 23 were hand tallied for a total of 4,670 ballots cast. 4,670 ballots cast out of 10,854 eligible voters is 43.3% turnout rates.
What was the turnout rate?
43.3% for Roosevelt County. We did have some spoiled ballots. And that happens when somebody puts their pen down while they're considering their vote, and they've got it in the for box and the against box both, and they spoil a ballot. We give them a new one. They surrender the spoiled one, and they mark it the way they want to and run it through the machine. On the last page of my notes is where our issues were. Well, not really issues, just things that I should tell you about. The absentee board met on Tuesday, November 8th, Wednesday, November 9th, and Thursday, November 10th. On Wednesday, they did their business. The machine from our office, the mail-in machine, and the Jake Lopez early machine. They did everything early. Absentee board handles early and absentee. They also handle write-ins from all of the sites. So everybody at every location for their write-in candidate, like Larry Marker, was delivered back to our office. Those aren't counted by the people who have already worked 14-hour day. They're counted the next day by the absentee board to make sure that they're correct. So they came back on Wednesday to do that. When they came on Wednesday to do that portion, we found that we did not have Floyd's 5 absentee ballots. They were in their ballot box, which is where ballots should be, but not if they have a write-in candidate on them. So we got a court order to get that open. So then they came back on Thursday to do the 5 from Floyd. That's also why they weren't on the Secretary of State's website immediately, because by the time we counted on Thursday afternoon at 4, and then the Secretary of State's office was closed on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, they didn't get actually posted until Monday, even though that they had been submitted. The absentee ballot or the mail-in write-in candidate votes didn't actually appear online as results until they opened on Monday morning. We had no provisional ballots throughout the county, and that's partly because we have same-day registration, and it's not necessary to issue a provisional ballot if we can go ahead and get the voter registered. So we had 2 absentee ballots that were rejected because they didn't have a signature. 14 spoiled ballots. That's not right. There was more than 14. 4, 5.
14.
I think it's supposed to be 41. If you add them up, it's 3, 4, 15 is 19, 10 is 29.
Do we need to redo that before we sign?
Yeah, I think that number is 41 and it's backwards, because I had a backwards number in the memorial building too that Nat caught yesterday. It was 1366 and not 3166. So it's 41. It's in somewhere else it says it accurately. in the count down the side, it's accurate. It's my math that's not accurate on that.
41's correct.
In the notes, it's 41, not 14. I thought so. 41. And
On your spreadsheet.
yeah. Then and then the one fled voter from the memorial building. I already said all those things. The one write-in candidate had 86 votes that were marked as write-ins. Not all of those votes were valid. When the absentee board came back, 2 from Floyd had the bubble marked, but no name written on the line. 2 from the memorial building the same way. So there were several votes out of that 86 that were taken off. There were 3 bond questions, no tax questions, and 3 constitutional amendments on the ballot. There were 67 same-day registrations processed on election day. 1 took over 4 hours. It's when the state system had to be rebooted. They were having troubles in other places that didn't affect us. Most of ours took 5 to 20 minutes, with the exception of that 1 4-hour one. And as soon as they rebooted the system, we were able to get him in. We called him. He said, "I'll come back." He was offered a provisional ballot before he left the memorial building. He did not want to vote that way. He wanted to put his ballot in the machine. So he came back when we called him and cast his ballot the same day. And he was a young man in the military, so he was not somebody you would say, you should have taken the responsibility to get registered in advance. He really was a newly transplanted person who was wanting to vote. We had 21 absentee ballots that were delivered to our drop boxes. 2 of those, and this is over the whole 28 days they were delivered. We didn't get any in the first week, but then they started to come in. So 21 this election cycle after not having any the last 3. So people are starting to hear about them and utilize them. 2 of those 21 ballots were not for Roosevelt County. 1 was for Sandoval County, and it was delivered on the 5th, which is that last Saturday of early voting that we were open. So I met a messenger in Klein's Corners to deliver it so that it would get counted in Sandoval. The other was delivered at 7 p.m. on election night, and it was for Lee County. I notified the Lee County clerk that it was here, and he said, deliver it by mail. It's not in Lee County. It's not going to count. So one we had was able to get to the county where it belonged. The other one was not counted. So we didn't have a whole lot of hiccups other than lines. Like I said, we had 1,366 at Memorial Building. When we opened the door at 7 o'clock that morning, 27 people came in. And there was a line till noon. There was about 2 times all day at the Memorial Building where there was not somebody waiting in line. Twice, that was it. They got 2 breaks the whole day. We had challengers from both parties at the Memorial Building, the Jake Lopez, and the absentee board to watch kind of what was going on. They had lots of questions and they were there to learn as well. So we're thinking about doing a training for recruitment and, when it's not election cycle time in the spring, a training and recruitment for more poll workers. We had everybody set up, lined up and ready to go 3 weeks out. And then we had 4 alternates lined up and ready. And when you've got people on the ballot like Tina, we can't use her family in Elida. We can't use, when we got Lee on the ballot, we can't use Lee's. And we couldn't use Sanchez's and Ortega's in Cordova. So we had our regular people and some alternates lined up. And then kind of last minute, we had all 4 alternates working in a site where they were not planning on working. They were planning on being available if needed last minute. Well, 1 car wreck, 1 surgery, 1 flu. I don't remember what, 2 of them were knee surgeries. So all of our alternates were working and there was no room for any more shrink than that. We had the minimum in the absentee board of 3. We had the minimum at Dora. So in the spring, I want to do a training and a recruitment to get a lot more people that are interested in and trained to work elections. And a lot of those people that were there to be challengers and watchers, a lot of them are interested in being election officials as well. So all of that to say that we had 4,670 voters participate. That is the number we turned into the Secretary of State's office. That is the number that they have on their website. Everything that they've pushed forward matches what we sent them. We are very confident that that number is accurate, with the exception of that 4 and that 1 backwards. I'm going to fix that before you sign. But I ask that you consider signing the Canvas certification. I do feel that it is good and that our number is solid, 44,760. You did get an email this morning. We all got an email this morning from Friends of Larry Marker campaign asking not to certify the election, stating that the machines are not certified. Well, technology has outpaced legislation. These machines are certified to the standard set a long time ago, and the most recent standard is 2019. We are still certified to that standard. The newest standard that's been updated by the federal standard, there is no way possible to certify to that standard yet because the labs haven't been certified to that standard. So we are certified to the best standard we have. My office certified all 17 of our machines. And then we double checked those certifications. Every machine that we have control of, we're certified to the best of our ability. And we have a paper trail of all of that certification standard. We had 3, was it 3? Just 3 people watch. We had a little bit of an audience for a little bit of time. We didn't have a big audience for all 17 machines, but we did have a few come and watch the certification process. We've done everything that we can to make sure that this election was fair in Roosevelt County. Do you have any questions for me?
I have one question.
Okay.
Do you handle your the drop box ones, just like the absentee ones that come in the mail? Do you pull them out, look at them, make sure they match up to what they're supposed to be? Or
Yeah, they're the same standard as if they came by mail or if somebody handed them back across the counter, because they're an absentee ballot, issued absentee, mailed
yeah,
off
there's some older people
and returned back that way.
even or that do have absentee.
Yeah. So our drop boxes are under 24-hour video surveillance, and we have to keep that video monitoring for 22 months, just like any other election document. So just like the ballots, we keep that video clip of that 2 minutes where somebody gets out of their car, pulls up, gets out of their car, puts it in the box, drives off. We keep that video surveillance for 22 months. We have looked at every instance of somebody dropping a ballot in a box. We've looked at all 21 people that dropped a ballot in the box.
Mhm.
We get an alert, we go back and we look at it. We also have a chain of custody for that ballot. When this went out here on the front steps, we get our two people look at it, not just one. Silka and I walk out there and we check the box together. We look at the time, we look at whether it's empty, we check to make sure it's not been vandalized. It still has its seal on it from the previous day. It's a little numbered tag, zip tie. So there's lots of checks and balances on that too. I don't love the drop boxes, but we're following the law. So we have to just keep it all. And because we had new people using them this time, never been used before, we looked at every incident when it said there's something, there's movement on the machine, movement in the range of the video camera. At the memorial building, there's a bird that just kind of hangs out near the machine. Yeah, so we look at that one pretty regularly. You didn't get the full report you're used to seeing, because there were seven precincts that had fewer than 10 voters cast an absentee ballot. So you got the summary of how many were cast per precinct. And that total also adds up to, that's the third way you see if all your numbers equal, is by adding what was cast in each precinct. That number also equals 4670.
Okay.
I do have the Canvas certificate for you to sign at the end of the meeting.
And you'll change that 14 to 41?
Yep.
We gotta come out.
Yep, we gotta come out.
Matt, can I ask her?
Yeah.
You sure can.
On the drop boxes, we've covered this before, but just need you to refresh my memory. Say we're bound by law to have the drop boxes. But there are some counties who do not use them, right? Are they bound by the same law as we are? Why do they use them and us not? I'm sure you've explained that, but
When they first came out, they were during COVID, and they said, do this, it'll be good for your constituents, it'll be safer for everybody. And there were some that were early adopters, and there were some that dragged their feet, and there are some that are still dragging their feet. And they said, put them at all of your polling locations, it'll be great. For us to put them at all of our polling locations would be a 90-mile round trip daily, all 30 days prior to the election, to pick them up, to check them. Even if they're empty, we have to go out there and check. So we chose to put just 3 out, and they're all within a mile of this building, but they did get used. There are counties that have chose not to put them out. Bernalillo County, based on their population, they would need over 200 boxes if they were following the statute. They got permission to just do 2. They have one at their front door of their courthouse and one at their back door of their courthouse. They were granted that permission. There were others that said, we're not going to do it.
But they just didn't seek permission. They just said, we're not doing it.
Yes,
They did it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it required by statute that they do it?
it is.
What do you have that statute number by any chance?
Not right off the top of my head.
It is a statute that we're required to have drop boxes, but we know not everyone is.
Yes. They haven't been implemented in every county yet. And there are those counties who have not implemented them, intend to.
And they're doing this with no consequences.
No, they filed suit not to have to do them.
No, they file suit not to. And then the ballots that go in the drop boxes, they're tabulated with the same tabulators, same machines that do everything else.
It's the absentee board. They all.
They're
those go to the
tabulated with the
absentee.
ones that the same ones that the mail-ins are.
Yes.
So the mail-ins and drop box on the same one.
Yeah.
And these are in our election, the same tabulator, that machine that tabulated the election that Aaron Clements reported the anomaly on the absentee ballots on. Did we tabulate the absentee ballots this time on the same machine?
Yes.
We did. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have a motion to come out of Board of Canvas.
Second.
Second. Mr. Carter, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 We are now out of Board of Canvas and reconvene into the Board of Commission. Now then, the chair, we need to have a motion to accept the canvas reported by the county clerk.
And I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that motion. And I guess we'll have a roll call vote since on that. Mr. Lopez, how do you
Yes.
vote? Yes.
No.
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no. On Canvas. Thank you. Mark.
Appreciate it, Mandy.
Resolution, ordinances, and proclamations. Item A, consideration of resolution 2022-44, second quarter financial budget adjustments. Ms. Viera.
Included in your meeting packets, the second quarter budget adjustments for your approval. Just to touch on some key items. Our road fund budget adjustment for 2.7 million, revenue and expenditures received for the transportation project fund. In our detention center, you have already heard how quickly the expenditures are adding up to house juveniles. It's costing over $30,000 per month. So this includes a $100,000 budget adjustment for this quarter. Also, in the budget adjustments, you will see adjustments to establish the food pantry fund for its revenue and expenditures for the upcoming grant. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
There's any questions for Ms. Viera about the budget adjustments? Chair to entertain a motion to accept the second quarter financial budget
So
adjustment.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
We moved second that we accept the second quarter financial budget adjustments presented by Ms. Viera. Mr. Lopez, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 5 yes votes. All right. Consideration of resolution 2022-45, supporting the New Mexico counties 2023 legislative priorities. Ms. Dixon, you ready to bring that to us?
So it's not going to, so I can't even.
Had that,
see
you had
mine.
that earlier.
Can you get mine?
Do you have the priorities? I already timed out.
You're short arm, don't make fun of me.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the legislative priorities for the NMC. And we don't have to read this whole thing, do we? Okay. Just some of the points were that we're in support of HB2 appropriations, the detention reimbursement fund, prisoner transport and extradition, emergency medical services, the public safety package. I know you guys all had it in your packet. The courthouse funding and the IPRA election related records and data. We had all went over them and picked our priorities at the last meeting, and these are the ones we came up with, and I'm in complete support of all of them, and I hope that you guys will too.
Any questions for Ms. Dixon?
We accept resolution 2022-45.
Accept.
Been moved and seconded, we accept the resolutions 22-45. Mr. Greider, how do you vote?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Savage?
Yes.
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 5 yes votes. Thank you for bringing that to us. Item 10, procurements, contracts, and agreements. Request approval of local driving while intoxicated. No, grant agreement. Amendment 1. Ms. Vieira.
Yes, I'd like to request the approval for the local DWI while intoxicated grant agreement. These, so we can accept it and utilize the funds for this fiscal year. And this is for our DWI and misdemeanor compliance program.
With that, Chair will make a motion to accept the local driving while intoxicated grant agreement.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item B, Ms. Vieira. Approval of the contract renewal with food services for Roosevelt County Detention Center, Trinity Services Group.
Yes, I would like to request the approval and renewal for this 1-year contract with Trinity included, and you'll see a price increase of 4.5%, which is the maximum allowed in our contract.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the Trinity Services.
Second.
I move second to accept the contract with food services. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Request approval of EMS Fund Act certification for Milton Sand Fire Department.
Yes, another request for your approval. This is for the Mill and Sand EMS, their local funding program application.
Chair will make a motion to approve the EMS Fund Act certification for Mill and Sand. Been moved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item D, request approval to accept the local assistance and tribal consistency fund allocated for Roosevelt County.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. So much as we treated the safety net care pool and the ARPA funds, we just want the authorization from the commission to accept. We will have to go online. I'll have to go online to the federal repository and make that request. And included in your packet was information on that, I believe, and the funding amount, which for Roosevelt County is $50,000. And then we will be able to set the budgetary expenditures for that at the commission's discretion at a later date. We just want verbal authorization to request the funds.
It's not earmarked for anything. Then
Yeah.
Not yet.
yeah.
I'll move to approve.
Well,
item 10D.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the local assistance travel fund. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Item E. Request approval of a grant agreement submitted with New Mexico Department of Transportation in Roosevelt County for traffic safety grant allocations. Lieutenant Sanchez. Oh.
Morning, Chairman. Morning, Commissioners. Bet you're glad to see me because I'm the last one on the agenda. It's been a long meeting, so I'll keep it pretty short. We're just asking approval for the annual traffic grant agreements, NDWI, which is $4,992, and STEP, which is $11,616. This is just for additional overtime opportunities to go out and enforce traffic enforcement within the county.
I move we approve.
I'll second.
NE.
Second.
Got motion second. All those in favor of the grant agreement, Department of Transportation, say aye. Aye. All those, no. All right, that was great. We do have a need for an executive session. Ms. Dixon, will you read all that for me? Because
That's my favorite.
Getting little.
I'll get it to you.
I move we go into executive session pursuant to 10-15-1 NMSA 1978 H limited personnel matters and 7 attorney-client privileged information pertaining to threatened or pending litigation, specifically Hernandez versus Roosevelt County, Porter versus Roosevelt County, Aguilar versus Roosevelt County, Padilla versus Roosevelt County, Johnson versus Roosevelt County, Ramirez versus Roosevelt County, Ortiz versus Roosevelt County, and to discuss attorney-client privileged information related to pending or threatened litigation. Any action necessary as a result of closed session?
I guess we need a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman.
We move second, we go into executive section. Mr. Greider, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Mr. Savage?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
5 yes votes. We are now in executive session. Thank y'all.